Ladies, gentlemen, horrible Tarkatan hybrids. Welcome back to The Lost. He's Razor, I'm Shad. Tonight it's Mileena Part 2.
These are true statements.
We shall be covering the NRS timeline this time. I look forward to this. This should be fun.
It'll go better than the last one, I think.
Yes, it took us a bit to get through that, didn't it? See, this time we're actually covering
some characters have been treated better than others.
Yeah, see, this time we're actually covering someone who got it pretty good this time around. For a while.
It is the NRS timeline that seems to have generated the bizarre populist movement.
You mean the rabidly devout fan base? So we have to do this right? Which is why I spent 2 hours before this podcast researching and reviewing everything to cover it right and give it respect. Because if we don't do that, they'll tear us to shreds.
I mean, I don't expect that most of those people listen to podcasts, but
those people. His words, not mine, folks.
I just mean the ones on Twitter, the Twitter users.
I'm on Twitter.
I have a Twitter too, but that doesn't mean I consider myself a Twitter user.
I use it for shitposting. That's about it.
Yeah.
It's good for that, but no,
I don't know.
I've always preferred to keep my fanboyisms to myself, and I'm at a point in life where I'm just, I can't, go out and be part of, the online fandom and argue about shit anymore.
What do we need with social media? We have our own Discord,
Yeah.
If you want to talk to me, you can come to my house. I don't have to go to yours anymore.
We got our own little echo chamber. With no one to say treasonous things like the NRS timeline was better. I'm sorry. It's true.
I must break them.
Okay, no, but for real. Mileena does pretty good for herself for a little while here.
Well, starting off the bat with MK9, there's been some debate about her characterization in that one.
Okay,
Because she's presented as a newly created during the MK2 tournament.
We should go back to that first, yes.
I just want to sort of broad strokes it. Because of that, she is interpreted by the fans as acting more childlike. And in places there are hints of that. But I would say overall that honestly, her personality really isn't very different from the one seen in Shaolin Monks and Armageddon. It's still those "won't you dance with me? Don't you think I'm pretty?" The sort of the giggling, psychotic persona was already there.
I agree, but I would have called her a little bit more manic and a bit more obviously unhinged with 9. And
there are some moments of where they're deliberately playing with a childlike aspect to the character, particularly in her interactions with Kitana. Her voice will get sing-song at times.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. She doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue in 9. She's only in maybe 4 or 5 scenes total in the story mode.
Yeah.
But it's more like the sing-songiness, the dancing around. She seems freshly out of the pod and kind of unhinged is the impression you get.
Right.
We'll get to it a little bit later, but
it's not that big of a step from the way she was already being characterized in the 3D era, is all I'm saying. I think sometimes more is made of it than is true. She wasn't a completely different character or anything.
No, she definitely became more ravenous. She got that starting with around Deception, I'd say.
Yeah,
a bit more ferocious.
She always had the fatality where she ate people, but she became more of a
unstable,
less clean when she does it. I would say more using her hands and really like leaping in and biting at the throat and a little more monstrous,
more visceral. That's the word we're looking for. She became a bit more visceral, more like kind of slightly feral in aspect, starting with deception and going forward.
Yeah.
It wasn't
we did already talk last episode about how starting in the 3D era, she became more sexual.
Yes, that too.
And that's definitely still an element in 9.
Oh, is it ever? No, the part about Mileena that threw people off, I'd say the biggest part, when 9 came out, was her entire origin.
Well, yeah, I think...
We've covered this before, but, like, whether it's because of the Malibu comic or because of, like, the fact that Kitana and MK2 and Mileena were specified as having already known each other.
Yeah, like, their MK2 bios clearly indicate that they were raised together to believe that they're siblings and partners in battle. And Mileena has a history of following Kitana around to spy on her for Shao Kahn, waiting for the day when she'll turn on him.
For however long it's been since Shang Tsung created her.
Yeah.
So we went through that last
however long that may have been, it was definitely before the MK2 tournament started.
They did have a relationship, but now we're presented as no, not so much. Here she's a straight up replacement found in a pod.
Which,
on a table, really.
Completely eliminates the idea that the two were ever sisters.
No.
Like, obviously, Melina's got dialogue where she calls her sister, but it's like a taunting, sick joke kind of thing. Like, quote unquote, sister, ironically, I'm going to kill you and replace you.
Gotta be honest, man, that line, come, let us be a family. It's creepy.
It is. Like, I kind of like the, like, sing-songy, childish bits, because they feel like she's, doing it as a taunt.
Yes.
Like, I don't get the impression that she really is, like, I'm only a week old and I don't know much of the world, so I'm simple. No, she's fucking playing with her food.
I just don't think let us be a family is a thing that a family member says to another family member when they're wearing nothing but toilet paper. The scene is made weirdly sexual because of that, and it makes me uncomfortable. So good job there.
There's a couple levels of that costume that are their whole own thing that needs to be discussed.
Like we said, the sexuality got cranked up to 11 here.
So first of all, that costume, I mean, from a storytelling standpoint, I can understand why, fresh out of the tube, she might be wearing something that is temporary or, like, some kind of lab experiment, quote-unquote, clothing. And if you're gonna, mummy wraps are as good as anything else, I guess, for that moment. But when the achievement you unlock, when you get that costume, calls it the best secret ever, or whatever it said, I don't think the devs' heads are in the same place my head's at when I look at that fucking costume, man.
Maybe we see it as ironic sexiness, and they don't. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I can't look at the anatomy of the MK9 models and feel sexual attraction.
This is a thing.
Every character in the game is a grotesque horror. Look at Liu Kang's shoulders and tell me there's not something wrong.
If, hypothetic, if MK11 Mileena had a Flesh Pits costume, it might look sexy. The 9 models don't, and that's just...
Right.
I'm not saying that to be insulting. It's just the proportions are wrong. Like,
there is one other thing as regards the Flesh Pits costume that I want to point out. If you're fresh out of the tube and the only clothing Shang has to put on you because he's like just got you out of the tube is these fucking wrappings, Why is she wearing eyeshadow? Let that sink in for a minute.
I got nothing, man.
Right?
Nothing. You know what? It was Meat. Meat was walking around.
Here's in the same game, there's a logic contrast. When Sindel is first resurrected in the desert and she's naked, she doesn't have makeup on. They actually did think of it.
Look, it's either Shang...
Mileena needs eyeshadow.
It's either Shang or Meat wanted her to look really pretty. That's all I got for you, man.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's fucked up.
You just... This is a line I cannot... No, I can't walk down this path. There are some things I think about too much. I'm just... No. I can't think about... No, I'm thinking about it. God fucking damn it. No.
So anyway.
Alright.
So, I have issues with the whole way in which the scene is set up. Because, obviously, we talked about a lot of this already in the Katana episode, that it doesn't make sense to create the scenario where Katana is still perfectly loyal to Kahn, and doesn't have a reason to turn against him until he admits to her face that he doesn't want her and is actively replacing her. But it's the scene before she goes to the Flesh Pits where Raiden gives her the reason to go to the Flesh Pits, and then is like, no, you have to do this alone. That just adds to all of the character assassination of Raiden in this game, you know? Like,
there's very little about MK9 that doesn't add to Raiden's character assassination.
I mean, what did he expect to happen? Of course she got herself in trouble and got captured, and now she's going to be executed if someone doesn't save her. That's Raiden's fault.
Yes, it is.
There's no reason that he couldn't have sent someone, say, Liu Kang, with her. But, you know, any chance for Liu and Katana to actually have screen time together and maybe build that relationship, that can't be allowed. Who wants to write that?
Careful. We're getting into how bad MK9 story mode is written again.
Right. Well, so Katana goes down there, and she discovers a bunch of tubes with unfinished Mileenas of varying degrees of Tarkatanness.
I do appreciate the fact that for the first time, because we heard the words Flesh Pits a few times before in the series, that we actually got to see it for the first time.
I believe the first mention of the Flesh Pits was in Shang Tsung's Armageddon stuff. It established where Meat came from and how Kahn brought Shang back after Shang was blown up at the beginning of Deception. And then it was mentioned again in Versus DC Universe. He has an ending where he makes Tarkatans who have Shazam's powers in the Flesh Pits. And in that version, we actually got an illustration which involved he was like making the Tarkatan out of like a traditional like cauldron, like a witch.
He's probably got a whole frickin' armory down there.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where my problems with the Flesh Pits design, the stage, stems in MK9, is that the 9 version is really, like, purely a mad science lab. There's not enough, like, magic wizard lab. Like, there's not shelves full of potions.
I was expecting it to... I mean, if I had to put, like, a face on it from, like, concepts, from the mentions of it, like, something like Quan Chi's lab in X would probably fit the bill a little bit closer.
Yeah, like, Quan's laboratory / library is exactly what I think, like, a wizard's study should look like. When we got the first screenshot of the Flesh Pits, I thought it was going to be the Cyber Ninja lab. Because it had fucking operating tables and people, like, cut open on them. I thought this was going to be like a Lin Kuei stage, and then it turned out to be Shang's flesh pits, and I'm like, this is too science for me. There's not enough wizard shit in this room.
I don't hate it, but I can see where you're coming from. I'm just glad that we actually got to go there.
Yeah,
It's grotesque enough. It's got like the requisite amount of gore. The atmosphere is more or less right, but I do agree it could use some accoutrements. But anyway, Mileena.
yeah. So Katana finds Mileena on the table. Mileena wakes up and immediately starts talking, which indicates that this probably isn't the first time she's ever woken up. She's had some kind of education coming out of the tube.
I think I've mentioned this in the last Mileena episode. I've always taken it that she's pretty much copy-pasted Katana's memories, but I guess here... I guess here there probably have always been some modifications.
Well, that's sort of something I always wonder with like comic books and TV and movies. When you clone someone and they come out an adult, how do they know how to speak English? Like, where do they get all their knowledge from? Because it takes, 18 years to educate a human being. Sometimes a lot longer.
Still, I have to assume that even in the original timeline, Mileena...
I mean, they played in the original timeline once or twice with that whole that she can read Katana's mind thing, and then promptly forgot about it. So maybe she has some kind of Katana's memories in her head.
That's what I always figured it was.
I would wonder how much of those memories are exactly left alone, or if they've been changed so that they're not confusing to her. Having someone else's memories in your head would be weird. I'm asking a lot of logic questions that I'm sure never occurs to most writers of, fantasy stories. They really don't think that deeply into it.
An enterprising writer could actually make something of that in a hypothetical MK2 rewrite. Like having Katana ask Mileena questions about her past, and Mileena realizing that she doesn't have answers, or she has contradictory memories, or, something like that. Things that, unless she pushes really hard, she doesn't really notice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be fine with it as long as, somebody just brought it up once, just acknowledge.
Would be nice.
That it's there. But anyway, Mileena seems to immediately know what her purpose in life is, and attacks Katana. Katana defeats her, and Shang Tsung comes in, and I do kind of enjoy the little argument between Katana and Shang, where she says, I will drag you before Shao Kahn by your pointed beard.
I like the scene immediately after where she just explains everything that that Shang Tsung's been doing, and Shao Kahn's just like, splendid! Wait, you what, mate?
Yeah. Like, he's just standing there perfectly calm. All right. Excellent.
Yep, I did it. I
approve of all of this.
So, I mean, that aside, she shows up a little bit later during Jade's chapter.
Katana has been locked up in the tower pending her execution, and Jade has tried to free her and couldn't succeed on her own, so now she's going to Raiden and friends for help. And as she reaches them, she's intercepted by Mileena, who now has a fully tailored outfit, and her size...
I should say, I like her 9 outfit.
I also like her 9 outfit. I think the section of it that's sort of cut out along her side and back, so it looks like a 2-piece from certain angles, is a little weird. You could just fill that in with purple and it would look just as good, maybe better. But overall, I like the design of that outfit.
I don't know that I'm wild about the gold trim, but otherwise,
I think
I'm generally a fan.
For the most part, that costume harkens pretty well to a cross between MK2 and UMK3.
A little bit of Shaolin Monks tossed in there, just a bit.
I would say the biggest influence on it is probably her alternate from Deception. It had a very similar cut to it.
Mm-hmm. And her alt in 9 is basically the Deception.
Yeah, the colors have been reversed.
Take on it.
There's little details like her boots are different, but pretty similar.
Wearing a belt across her midriff again, exposed shoulders. She did pretty well as far as nine costumes went.
Yeah, I think she got closer to what I like to see in a remake than some characters. You know, I've always said, like, if you're gonna do a remake, the outfit should look like an up-res of the original outfits. So, like, I like MK9 Johnny, I like MK9 Raiden, Liu Kang is okay. I don't think Scorpion's primary is appropriate for a remake at all. It looks nothing like MK1, 2, or 3. I would have much preferred to see him in the versus DCU costume.
That thing has fans, and I don't understand.
Yeah, no, I don't get it either. But I think Mileena is somewhere in the middle, comfortably enough. I don't have any complaints, really. It's a fine costume. But anyway, so she shows up to intercept Jade. And Jade makes the claim, I'm more of a sister to Katana than you are, which is, I should think, fairly obvious. Since Mileena's just gotten here.
I'm glad she said it, really. It was nice to see that actually outlined.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's a good line, but it would have more impact in the old timeline. You know? Where it's...
It's one of those things I take and I apply it to then, and it's like, it's nice to see it finally acknowledged.
It describes the original character relationships as opposed to I'm more of a sister to her than the creature who's just been created to kill and replace her is. No shit.
Still true. Still true.
There's a funny moment where after she beats Mileena, when Raiden and the others step in, Smoke attacks Jade because he has mistaken Mileena for Katana. He thinks Jade is attacking Katana and Katana's their ally, so. And the issue I have with the moment is that Raiden succeeds in getting the full sentence out, wait, Smoke, that's not Katana.
If anything, I think we should be praising Raiden, as it really seems like a lot of people don't get it and can't see it, even though it should be obvious to everyone.
She has, like, glowing yellow eyes. She's... You know, MK9 Mileena doesn't really look like Katana at all.
No, she does not.
In fact, 11 did a good job making them actually look like each other using the same faces. And toning down the yellowness of Mileena's eyes helps a lot.
Yes.
I would say in neither 9 nor X does Mileena look anything like Katana.
11 was a very, very welcome return to form in that regard. They're supposed to be twins.
It's like I get when you're writing the script for a thing and you don't know what the artists are going to design. You do want the idea in there that since she's a clone, they look the same. You would write that. My problem is that the model makers didn't get the fucking memo.
This is inevitably what happens when you have a bunch of different departments that don't necessarily work together.
That's always been my problem with the NRS era, is that it's no longer... Like, Midway was small and tight-knit, so it felt like everybody was kind of working together when they'd make a game. And granted, they were much lower budget games. And certainly they have more resources now under Warner Brothers. But at every single step of the way creatively, I just feel like 9, X, and 11 suffer from the classic problem of too many cooks in the kitchen.
That's what it's always going to be. It's a giant corporate
Yeah,
product,
there's
man.
really no going back. I kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe MK is just dead already.
I don't know about that. It's just that the MK we know
Well,
is
yeah,
dead
I
already.
mean,
It is what it is now, and I've come to terms with that. But we're straying off
I
the
feel
point
like
again.
every part 2 of a Lost is an autopsy.
No, you know what? No. Jax did
Yeah,
okay.
Jax was alright.
But
Yeah,
anyhow.
so after that, Mileena, I think she was like watching the tournament at the end when when Liu goes to free Katana and nobody stops him. Meanwhile, Kung Lao has his fights and gets his neck snapped. I'm pretty sure Mileena was in the crowd for that.
She's hanging around there, but she doesn't
Yeah,
actually
I
do
feel
anything
like
at this
shouldn't she
point.
be maybe stopping Liu Kang from freeing Katana? Shouldn't somebody be?
Nope.
uh, Everybody just kind of sat by and did nothing. And then the next time she shows up isn't until like Striker's chapter, where she's just kind of
Yeah, it's the invasion.
one of the random outworlders in the street attacking during the invasion.
They have an interesting dialogue about that. Where they're like, what do you think she is, friend or foe? And Kamal's like, foe? With an outfit like that?
Striker's like, definitely foe. Like, he's the one who's not thinking with his dick, you know?
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It was good.
You know what? There was one moment before that. I can't remember if Mileena was in the scene, but she's brought up when the Outworlders think Shao Kahn is dead because Liu Kang has punched a hole in his chest, and they're talking about who should rule next.
And they're talking about like
and
claims.
Baraka specifically speaks up for Mileena and says she's his heir, she should get the throne. And I feel like having Baraka do that is a nice nod to the relationship.
The old connection that they used to have.
Apparently, according to Brian Chard, they had written some scenes for this story mode that involved Baraka and Mileena interacting with each other. But they got cut for time or space or whatever. Just ended up on the cutting room floor.
We know what happens every single game. There's always stuff that they can't include, and it's always a shame, but I've always felt that for MK9's story in particular, a lot of it got dropped. It feels like that sometimes, and yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that.
I've always just wanted to see, some Baraka and Mileena interaction, It's a bummer. And I think, like, especially because 9 didn't do particularly well by Baraka, he's just kind of there to be your standard henchman and lose fights and stuff. So I guess that little bit we get where he is the one who's like, hey, what about Mileena? It at least shows where his head's at, and I appreciate that.
His head.
But yeah, so does Mileena show up at all after Stryker fights her?
She's there when they're bringing Mataro's corpse
Oh, that's
in.
right. Yeah, her and Noob Saibot.
And she's the one who gets to go Raiden's kill Mataro.
And
that's basically
her and Noob are the ones who fight Cabal when he tries to make a run at Khan.
And she's like, no one attacks the Emperor. And that's it. That's her part in 9.
That's pretty much it for her. It's kind of funny, like, how little she's in it, and yet, like, MK9 Mileena seems to be the one that left the biggest impression. Like, all the cosplayers usually dress in the 9 costume. Most of the fan art of Mileena out in the world is of the 9 costume. And something I want to point out, because obviously trying to make the costumes more modest and less quote-unquote sexist in the games that have come after 9, most cosplayers are female and have chosen to wear that outfit. Seems to me like maybe Mileena's fans like her just the way she is,
You know what? I don't really think she ever changed all that much in terms of personality.
No, certainly not in terms of personality.
I also don't even think that she really got desexualized at all. You know,
Well,
it's just that she was always kind of a sexy-ish character, and 9 just kind of cranked it up to 11. That's all there was to it.
It's slightly toned down, but it's also sort of offset. Like they decrease the amount of her like doing random flirty dances in her like animations, but they increase the amount of her flirting with particularly the character of Tanya.
She flirts with quite a few people, as we're about to see. I do want to point out her bio in this game, though. Her 9 bio specifically says that, you know, after it's done giving us like the lowdown on what she is, the dichotomy has made her mind unstable. She is prone to fits of madness and savagery. Although she has the appearance of a mature woman, she is more child than adult. A blank slate conformed to Shao Kahn's will. So, even if she doesn't seem all that far off, she is supposed to be kind of childish.
Sure. And I mean, obviously, the main thing that has been lost from the character by revamping her origin in this way is that she no longer has the potential centuries of resentment inherent to having been created to replace Katana, but not replacing Katana. You know, the original story was that when she came out of the cloning tube, Kahn wasn't happy with the mouth, considered her a failure, decided, okay, we're not replacing Katana, I just want you to spy on her instead. So Mileena was supposed to have always had that sort of underappreciated sadness, and that's completely gone from the character. There's no pathos. It's more one-dimensional. It's like just the dancey, flirty parts from the previous games.
She loses a lot by not having that interaction with Katana and just being her straight-up replacement. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that she succeeds in replacing her. Completely reverses the dynamics and the personalities.
But answer me this: how many Mileena versus Katana fights happen in the entire trilogy of NRS games?
Isn't it just the one?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just the Flesh Pits fight. That's the only time they ever fight each other.
The only time they ever actually come into conflict, and it's such a shame.
I mean,
anyhow,
from a certain point of view, it's like as a Scorpion and Sub-Zero fan, it's like I'm glad to see them not fighting each other all the time anymore. That, you know, they eventually got stories separate from one another and even became allies. And certainly I would want to see Katana and Mileena get to that place. But I would want to see it happen organically within a single timeline and not have the new timeline respond weirdly to the old timeline where those events never happened. You know what I mean?
What we're saying is basically everything is MK9's fault.
Yeah.
So, moving onward. Briefly bringing up her 9 ending here, as much as that matters. She kills the Emperor in a fit of deranged fury, but she was unaware that her victory resulted from Shang Tsung's designs. He had imbued her with the power to drain Khan's dark magic and render him vulnerable. Now Tsung was ready to execute the next phase of his plan, murder her and take Khan's power for himself. But Mileena instinctively wielded her new dark power against the sorcerer. Shang's end came quickly. Mileena absorbed his soul, multiplying her strength. She then set out to claim an even bigger prize, the soul of a thunder god. So it's another ending where someone eats Shang Tsung for breakfast.
There was quite a bit of that in 9, wasn't there?
A little bit, it appears, yeah.
I don't know. On one level, it's like one of your standard villain endings from an old school MK game like Kano in 3, where it's his own
Yeah,
secrets got him
it's
killed
just
trying
another
to
like
take
what if
power.
scenario. Doesn't have any effect on anything, any bearing on
Yeah,
anything.
like I definitely don't think it's canon that Mileena has the secret power to drain Shang Tsung's
No.
or Shao Kahn's magic and steal souls or nothing. I think, when we've talked many times before about how arcade endings are superfluous filler now, that they have story modes and they don't have any interest in connecting the arcade endings to the story modes, which is a shame.
Yes, it is. I don't object to the presence of endings like this. Obviously, I'm not saying that they're bad. I don't think you are either, because these kind of what if scenarios, they've always had a place in all of the games, and I don't want to see them go anywhere.
Well, certainly,
But and that's okay. Like, some endings can just be some endings, but it would be cool if when they could make endings revolve around characters who survive the main storyline and touch on some things that they already touch on or expand on the story.
well, I would just like to see them go back to the way it was in 4 and Deadly Alliance and Deception, where, half of the endings belonged to characters who obviously weren't going to get what they want. So those characters would get what-ifs. And then the other half of the characters would get actual canon endings.
Yeah, see, that would be really cool. No Sub-Zero riding around on dragons just because Game of Thrones reference,
Yeah.
So moving forward...
MKX,
we get to the
I would
MKX
say,
comic.
was sort of the big breakout moment for Mileena, really across the entire franchise. And it seems to be...
Yes, it was.
It seems to be, other than obviously the popularity of her 9 costume, her story in X seems to be the genesis of this new, bigger fandom that she's currently enjoying.
So, yeah, I've had people tell me that she's always been an extremely popular character, and yes, I'd say she's always been up there, but never to a greater extent than anyone else like Kitana or, Kung Lao. Really popular for, like, one of the B-tier characters, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, as a palette swap ninja, certainly she has been in fans' minds for a long time. She's never been, like, one of the forgotten tier, like, Night Wolf or a Striker, Kung Lao sometimes. But I would say, like, before the NRS era, she really wasn't particularly mainstream, I guess. Like, I mean, we'll talk about it next episode, because that's the episode about adaptations, but she was barely in any of them ever. Kitana was certainly always front and center because she's important to the main story. She is the female protagonist opposite Liu Kang, the male protagonist.
Right, and Mileena's just kind of like the dark doppelganger.
Yeah, and she almost never shows up in, like, TV shows, and the cartoon, I'm pretty sure she never appears. She just wasn't in much stuff, and certainly in the 90s, all the way up through the 3D era, one of my great laments, this is the early days of the internet, so most people listening to this probably weren't around for all this, but one of my great laments in the aughts was that you'd look for fan art. Street Fighter had a lot of fan art. Soul Calibur had a lot of fan art. Mortal Kombat in general had very little of anything. And if you were looking for, like, a sexy drawing of the girls, it was rare to find anyone but Kitana, really.
The odd Sonya.
Once in a while.
One thing I do remember to a great extent is that when Deception came along, it was a big deal because it was bringing back basically everyone who was formerly a big face that couldn't be around for Deadly Alliance. So Mileena was one of, like, the ones that was used to kind of sell that.
That's true. Mileena and Baraka were the poster characters. They were the ones, like, in the big trailer.
Yeah. So they were definitely at the forefront of people who we wanted to see come back, who we were looking forward to. And, like, you know, Midway at the time definitely knew that. But she just wasn't a phenomenon like she is now.
Yeah.
There's no comparison.
Yeah, she was definitely, like... I mean, sometimes people say B-list and they mean, like, lower. Like, I'm actually saying if there are tiers like A, B, C, D, she is B. Or she was before, like, MK9 and X.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's been a huge jump. And I think that a lot of people probably don't realize it because of their age or when they jumped into the franchise. They weren't necessarily around to see. In the 90s, she was very much an afterthought.
Just kind of one of the crew,
yeah,
really.
And because, like, you know, the other big rivalry between two palette swap ninjas, Scorpion and Sub-Zero, obviously both of them get to be in stuff and be major characters in that stuff. Kitana and Mileena wasn't really a thing. It was just Kitana. I mean, it should have been a thing. I would have liked to see Mileena in stuff. It just weirdly wasn't happening.
Well, like I just said, there has not been a lot of points where they've had the opportunity to go at each other's throats to fill the public consciousness with the image of them as mortal enemies.
Yeah, like obviously within the games, there is a huge fight between them canonically in MK2 where Kitana kills Mileena. And in UMK3 and MK4, Melina's entire story is like, I've come back from the dead, and if it's the last thing I do, I'll get fucking Kitana for what she did to me. And then they fight again, canonically, at the end of MK4 Gold. And then in Deception...
probably like the only...
In Deception, Melina's whole thing is like, okay, we've got Kitana prisoner, I'm going to dress up like her and pretend to be her.
The end of Gold is probably the only time they ever really come close to actually trading blows, where we see it in any kind of cinematic fashion. It's funny, actually.
Yeah,
it's really funny.
It's weird. It's weird, because we see Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight all the time in everything.
I was just doing groceries and saw them fighting down the street.
But literally, like,
just going
the only time and Mileena have fought each other on screen in anything are a Gold ending, the Flesh Pits fight in 9, and, like, a one-hit kill in Legacy. What the fuck is going on?
Pretty much. Please, we got that training session.
Oh yeah,
too.
they
we'll
did.
Get to
They
that
did
next
have
episode.
they had a training scene wherever they were fighting each other. So, like, Legacy has done more Kitana versus Mileena than the games have. It seems.
It's weird.
It's fucking weird. Yeah.
But do we start with the X comic?
Well, chronologically, I suppose so. Technically, the first thing that happens chronologically is the scene in the game where Kotal kicks Mileena off the throne. So obviously, the start of status quo for MKX is that with Shao Kahn dead, Mileena is indeed his heir and takes the throne. And we see once again, Baraka and the Tarkatans are her main supporter. We see that at the time, Ermac is on her side, because in this timeline, he is apparently still following whatever mental programming he was given when he was created by Shao Kahn to serve whoever's on the throne of Outworld. And unlike with the old timeline where Kenshi broke that and he had complete free will to do whatever he wanted, he does gain, like, the free will to choose who he wants to serve, but he's still serving whoever he thinks is best to rule Outworld. Like, it's all about serving the throne still. He's not really his own man.
Never got that spiritual sword guidance.
Yeah. It's a shame. But yeah, so Mileena is presented and And this flashback in story mode is the subtitle is wrong. It says it's like 5 years ago, but it means like 20 years ago. Like it's supposed to be happening at the same time the Shinnok stuff is happening in Earthrealm. Because in the dialogue, Kotal and Mileena's the thing they are arguing about is specifically the belief that if Shinnok succeeds at conquering Earth, he will come for Outworld next. And they need to prepare for that.
Kotal wants to
and Kotal suggests that they should ally with Earthrealm. And Mileena says, I will absolutely not
no part of it.
Treat with my father's killers. And that's the reason that she is deposed and that Devora puts Kotal on the throne.
And honestly, they're kind of right to do it, because Kotal gives his argument in a very convincing fashion. We have more important things that are about to go down. The Netherrealm is literally about to start, their uprising. We're going to have to deal with them soon. We don't have time for petty grievances.
There is the general implication. Like, it's never really gone into what Mileena is like as a ruler, but it's pretty well implied that because she's not really old enough and prepared for this, and she's very self-centered, she's not really capable of doing what's best for the kingdom. She's only capable of doing what aggrandizes herself.
People are not happy.
We see a moment in the comic where when she first takes the throne, Devora bows to her, and Mileena makes Devora kiss her boot just so she can kick her in the mouth. And that's the kind of
And when she doesn't fight back, she tells her, perfect. You don't offer any resistance, you're exactly what I want. She doesn't want loyalty, she wants subservience.
Yeah, she just wants to be loved and worshipped by an infinite supply of slaves, basically.
Gee, I wonder what kind of people would have exception to that. A lot.
Yeah, so if you're ever like encountering someone on the internet who's like, they didn't really show that Mileena was a bad ruler. There was no reason to kick her off the throne. Come on, man. Come on. Come on.
She's a sociopath. She has feelings, but she's a very cruel and unusual person.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, sociopaths don't not have emotions. They just don't understand or care about other people's emotions. And so they get very, insecure and paranoid and manic when they feel threatened. Because they're acting emotionally. So anyway, Mileena is kicked off the throne. And we don't really see it. She's thrown in a holding cell. That kind of happens off screen. But what we do see is that she's freed by Rain. And Rain is working with Tanya. And the two of them are presenting this alliance with the logic that we'll help you if you promise to free Edenia for us. But
that's the reason she has allies.
We later find out that what's really going on is that Rain wants her and Kotal to kill each other so that he can take the throne. And it's made pretty clear that Tanya is in on the plan because she was standing right there when Rain explains the plan to Cassie.
Now, she comes up after he's explained.
Yeah, he says off screen. But as soon as he finishes the sentence, Tanya leaps in and attacks Cassie from off screen. She had to have been within earshot.
There are people who maintain that Mileena and Tanya are in a loving relationship, or Mileena and Rain are in a loving relationship. I don't give a shit. They're all sociopaths, even if they think they're in love with each other, they will hurt each other eventually.
Yeah,
It's all beside the point.
Here's my interpretation.
Shipping is for infants. Nobody cares.
Here's my interpretation of what's going on here. First of all 3 of them are fucking. All 3. In every combination.
That's not even a question. Yes, it is.
Second, Mileena clearly cares or thinks she cares. Like, again, sociopath. When a sociopath cares about someone, they actually care about how that someone makes them feel. Mileena likes having Tanya around because she believes Tanya's in love with her. In reality, I am 100% certain that Tanya is planning treachery just as much as Rain is.
That is just who Tanya is.
Tanya has a history in both timelines of never doing anything but stabbing everyone in the back. That's her whole character. That's her defining trait. The only thing Tanya loves is power.
I actually want to take a moment here. For people who are sympathetic with Mileena, I don't blame you. Just clarifying this. Because all throughout this, the MKX comic and MKX itself, she is consistently manipulated, abandoned by the people around her. That is because of who the people around her are. Reiko, Rain, Tanya. None of these people have Mileena's best interests at heart.
You know, we said, when we were talking about 9, I said that it's a shame that they've lost the pathos part of the old timeline, where Mileena feels sad and underappreciated because she doesn't get to be Shao Kahn's favorite daughter. She doesn't get to replace Kitana. In the new timeline, though she does replace Kitana, and she is the favorite daughter, and she doesn't have that pathos, they did a good job replacing it with the pathos in MKX, specifically the comic, of her feeling sad and lonely because everybody just uses her. Nobody's really on her side. Everybody either turns on her or abandons her, and you end up with the same end result of someone that you feel sorry for because they're lonely. I do appreciate that.
Just, remember, if the shoe was on the other foot, she'd do the same to that.
Probably, yes. And, obviously, people are going to bring up the 2 of them, Mileena and Tanya, appearing to be a happy couple in her MK11 ending. But what I want to point out is that the world created in that ending is one that Mileena herself created with the powers of It's her fantasy. It's not reality. The Tanya in that world is not real Tanya.
If people want to ship, that's on them, fine. But my position is, yes, she has feelings. They all have feelings. But their strongest feelings are for themselves.
I mean, obviously, that's also how it's possible for a lesbian couple to have a baby. This is some genie wish granting stuff with the fucking hourglass going on in that ending.
Pretty much.
Not that they couldn't.
Maybe they adopted.
Not that they couldn't adopt or have a baby made for them in the flesh pits or any number of things. I'm just saying the most likely answer is, where did that baby come from? Mileena fucking wished for it because she has the hourglass. That's what that ending's about.
It could have come from Rain.
It's like, you don't really think Cabal and Serena have anything to do with each other, do you?
Rain was an adequate consort.
That's what I've heard.
Adequate?
I have heard the word adequate.
Look, she gets around. And I'm not slut-shaming. Mileena gets around.
No, I mean,
that baby could have come from literally
part
anywhere.
Of the character, and you can say that without, saying it's a bad thing. It's just part of the character.
The sky is purple. Goro is the prince of the Shao Kahn. Mileena sleeps with a lot of people. These are just facts.
Yeah, and it's fine. Fine. I do think that, Mileena and Tanya make a cute couple, I'm just saying they're not built to last.
There is nothing wrong with them dating. I just...
You know it won't end well, that's all I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
personalities.
I don't care who Noob Saibot hooks up with, it's the same thing. It's not going to be wholesome.
Villains are not great
That's
at
the only
healthy
point.
relationships. That's all. That's the message.
Next on The Bachelor.
So anyway, after Mileena is freed from the dungeon and Rain and Tanya help her establish her rebellion. Although weirdly enough, Tanya never shows up in the comic, only Rain does. But
I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, because like he had to have known Tanya was going to be in story mode because she's in story mode, wouldn't he? I mean, maybe not.
It's... I'm sure that he gets some kind of a script. Maybe it's
maybe Tanya wasn't in the early versions of the script because, like, if he had the most up-to-date script, you'd think he'd have gotten Scorpion's family's names right.
That's a pretty grievous error.
But anyway,
Tanya herself always kind of came off like a glorified cameo to me anyway in the first place, and I don't think that they actually expected people to want her in the game, although, God, it seems obvious to me.
Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Tanya. I would say Tanya is one of the most enduring MK4 characters, her and Fujin.
She is no Jarek or Kai. I've always liked her. I mean, she rated enough to come back.
Speaking of enduring MK4 characters, though, Mileena's rebellion is not led by Mileena so much as it is by her new general, Reiko.
Yeah, indeed.
And the comic makes it quite clear that her and Reiko are an item, and that he is not so happy to be with her. He's putting up with it for the power.
Like I was saying, it's actually a really sad story if you look at it the entire way through. She spends all of the MKX comic and part in MK10 is just being used
we said
by
like,
everyone around her.
Every single person who she wants to be with or thinks is loyal to her betrays her, uses her. She is really making the wrong friends.
Honestly, Goro might be an exception, but he's only really with her because he didn't like being sent out on, like, dirty secret missions.
So first of all, we get a literal panel in the comic of Mileena, like, making out with Reiko, like, licking him on the neck and stuff, and his face is turned away from her and grimacing, like he's really struggling to deal. Like, he's just like, just put up with it. Just put up with it.
I'm enjoying this.
It's only temporary, and then the throne will be yours.
I want to be here. I need to be here. This is part of the territory.
Really not into her.
Poor girl.
But yeah, so like the Goro scene though, like Reiko recruits Goro and the Shokan to Mileena's side on the basis that Kotal and his regime don't favor the Shokan because the Shokan wouldn't pick a side earlier in the rebellion. Mm-hmm. So he kind of like banished them from the kingdom. So Goro is like, fine, fuck you, and takes up with Mileena. But the scene where they're like negotiating their partnership, Goro is like casually putting his hand on her ass.
I feel really bad for her. I do.
It doesn't seem like he gives a shit about her. He's just casually chauvinistic because whatever.
This isn't really about him working for her benefit for him. This is about him repaying his insulted honor and like getting prestige back for the Shao Kahn.
Like, well,
it's
not like Rain and Tanya and Reiko where Mileena thinks Goro gives a shit. Like, it's clear in the scene that he's not like, I'm not with you. I'm just doing this because it benefits me.
It's an alliance of convenience and sex. Hideous sex.
See, that's what makes me wonder, like, is Mileena really sleeping with literally everyone? Like, why is his hand on her ass?
I mean, I just take it for granted that she is. She enjoys it. It's fun. It's a benefit to making new friends. It's how she,
Well,
it's how she
I
shakes
can't
hands.
imagine that Goro would be, like, what does he need Mileena for? He's got a whole harem.
I feel like people in Outworld have honor, passion, not so much standards.
I don't know. It's just if I was in Goro's shoes, I don't feel that I would need to include sex in the deal-making process.
Dude, the guy's got 7 wives. He's plainly got an appetite.
I guess, but it's like he's not even looking at her. Like, he's busy eating a meal, and he's just like, well, I have 4 hands. I can use one of them for this.
I mean, as long as she's happy, fringe benefit. And like, he doesn't even really abandon her. He just gets his ass handed to him so badly. By
No,
Kombat.
yeah, like, the Shao Kahn don't betray Mileena. They are just left by the wayside after they're defeated.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's fair. Like, he's the only one who like really doesn't really so much lie to her and use her. It's painful when like you're looking at her interaction with Reiko and she literally says, "You are the only person I actually trust." Bad judge a character.
Yeah, I mean, like I said before, her interactions with various characters who betray her in MKX eventually lead her to become the same personality as in the old timeline, the underappreciated, always second place to Katana sort of character, where she's sad and sympathetic. So, like, she's not really that different from the old timeline, in spite of the radical change to her origin story. It's just a shame that she's lost the dynamic with Katana. That's the only real big difference. Like, since they never grew up as sisters, that's what's missing. But otherwise, she ends up the same person, personality-wise.
There is a case to be made that neither timeline really capitalizes on all that much on the build-up that they have together. And it's one way or another.
Like that's why people, including us, have always said that if they made another adventure game, Katana Mileena Jade is always like the first vote for what it should be about, is because that backstory is one of the things that people have always wanted fleshed out that wasn't really.
I have been clamoring for that exact game since the 3D era, when, you know, the concept of getting another adventure game was a bit more than a hopeless pipe dream.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Midway hadn't gone out of business, they'd have stuck to their business plan of Mortal Kombat is our best franchise. Let's keep making them and make a variety of them and have a lot of Mortal Kombat out on the market, because Warner Brothers doesn't need Mortal Kombat. They're Warner Brothers. And that's why we only get a fighting game every few years, instead of like them really exploring what the IP could be. They don't care because they own 1 million IPs.
I would like to think that it's possible that the guys at NRS would one day just go, let's see if we can just pitch an adventure game, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's the kind of thing that...
I mean, I'm sure Ed has thrown a lot of ideas out there. Like, he wanted there to be an HD arcade remake. He wants there to be more Shaolin Monkses. It's just... he doesn't have a lot of pull because he's just the head of this one studio.
Fucking WB. But anyway, back to Mileena.
So it comes to the point where Reiko unveils his real plan, what he's using Mileena for. And it's to acquire... He's working for/with Havoc to acquire all of the Kamidogus, because Havoc has told him that if he sacrifices various powerful warriors, including Kotal and Mileena, in a blood magic ritual using the Kamidogus, that he will become the god of blood. And this is all a big trick, and they capture all the necessary sacrifices, including Mileena and Kotal, by sort of luring them to Shang Tsung's island. Like, I can't even remember exactly what happens in the comic where Mileena realizes Reiko has turned on her and why she goes to the island. Alright, so when Rain, all bandaged, finally wakes up from his flash frying, he tells Mileena that he overheard the Red Dragons talking, and the Red Dragons work for Reiko in the comic. And so he knows Reiko is planning to betray her, and that Reiko and Havoc have gone off to Shang's island. And so that's why Mileena goes to the island. And Mileena gets there to confront Reiko, and Kotal goes there with Sonya and Johnny, because Reiko has kidnapped Cassie and Jackie, and did all this stuff to get the Kamidogus from Earthrealm. And so all these forces converge on the beach at Shang's Island, and there's a big fight. And Reiko's side managed to capture them. And so he sets up his whole like blood sacrifice, getting the blood from all these strong warriors, Mileena and Ermac and Kotal and Raiden and Johnny and Sonya. Then, like, the ritual is to draw some blood from them and then stab him with all 6 daggers, and he'll transform into, quote-unquote, the blood god. But what really ends up happening is, instead of giving him the power of a god, it gives him, like, this insatiable hunger for blood that he, like, starts ripping himself apart because he can't satisfy it and it hurts so bad.
I just want to point out that before we move on to Reiko literally tearing himself apart, there's a panel where they're all, like, strapped down onto their draining tables, and, like, Havoc's kind of walking around as he monologues, and he just grabs Melina's hair and tugs on it a little bit, and there's a look on her face like, I'm really not fucking having this.
But yeah, like, so the thirst for blood causes Reiko to, like, start melting. And Havoc is like, he starts telling him, haha, I tricked you. And he's, like, grabbing his head like he's going to comfort him, and instead he squishes it. And when he squishes Reiko's head, the Shinnok's amulet pops out, because the Kamidogu had been used to trap the amulet in a pocket dimension so nobody could get it. And that's what Havoc was after all along. He wanted the Kamidogus and to kill Reiko so that he could get the amulet out of that pocket dimension. And now Havoc has Shinnok's amulet, and he starts, like, he, like, sinks the Shao Kahn boat that they sailed to the island with by shooting, like, a laser out of the amulet and shit. And he's...
I do have to give it to them. Like, this was actually kind of important to the main game, because when MKX starts, I don't believe there's any explanation at all as to why Mileena has Shinnok's amulet.
Well, there is, and it's actually not related to this at all. Because what happens at the end of this comic is that Scorpion shows up to kill Havoc and basically solve the plot, because Havoc had been, like, tormenting him and doing stuff earlier to get a Kamidogu that the Shirai Ryu had. So Scorpion defeats Havoc, and everything goes back to normal. And what happens is Raiden takes the amulet, and he decides, well, the pocket dimension thing didn't work. I guess I'll just have to keep the amulet in the vault at the Sky Temple and hope that's safe enough. So in MKX, they say that Rain hired the Black Dragons to steal the amulet from the Sky Temple. Yeah,
Okay, fair enough. I just forgot
Raiden
about
is
that part.
missing for most of the game because when he went to check the vault to see how the amulet got stolen, he discovers Tremor had left behind a weird bomb that required him to go to different realms to defuse. Like it came from the Dream Realm or something. It's tied to Tremor's arcade ending. So yeah, it really had nothing to like the whole plot of the comic could have not happened at all, and they could have just said that after Shinnok was defeated, the amulet was in the Sky Temple all along. The comic is literally filler. It really only exists to explain what the Reiko Accords were, which is a peace treaty mentioned in passing in MKX that explains why Kotal's outworld is at peace with Earthrealm. So they just like the game MKX just dropped this thing called the Reiko Accords to basically hint there's a reason Kotal made peace with Earth that has something to do with Reiko. We don't know what.
All right. Fair enough.
And that's really all the comic fills in is what Reiko had to do with anything.
Does Mileena even show up after Reiko?
After Reiko is defeated, Kotal is like, I think there's some line about how Mileena escaped or Kotal would catch her now, but he and his people need to recover because they got the shit kicked out of them by Reiko. But she gets away, and there's a scene between her and Ermac, and this is a big plot hole in the comic that in MKX the game, when we saw the flashback where Kotal turned against Mileena and took over the throne, Ermac immediately sided with Kotal. In the comic, Ermac stays on Mileena's side the entire time during her rebellion. Like he's with her and Rain and Reiko. And doesn't switch to Kotal's side until the end of the comic, where he's like, I have seen, as you've been fighting Kotal, that he's a better leader than you are. Sorry. Peace out. and it's like just the comic is using it as just one more scene to emphasize how everybody on Mileena's side is betraying her, and she's like sad and lonely. But it doesn't make sense for Ermac to have been with her in the first place, because that's not what happens in the game.
Tie-in media, man.
Yeah. But I believe that's Mileena's last scene in the comic, is Ermac being like, I'm sorry, but I quit.
I'm going over the pages here, and during the big brawl to Alan, she gets to chomp onto Reptile's back and start gnawing at him. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there is a significant scene worth talking about yet in the comic, where when Mileena comes to Shang's Island to go after Reiko, she gets into a fight with Scarlet on the beach, because Scarlet is on Reiko's side. And the reason Scarlet is on Reiko's side is twofold. A, Reiko has agreed to teach her blood magic, which hugely conflicts with MK11 Scarlet's backstory, by the way. Just throwing that out there. The second reason is because Scarlet believes that as a creation of Shao Kahn, she counts as one of his daughters, and she has a claim to the throne no less valid than Mileena's. And also, Scarlet is sleeping with Rain. It's pretty heavy, or with Reiko. I mean, it's pretty heavily implied. Like, there's like a panel of them like scheming against Mileena together, and she's hanging off him like romantically. And I want to point out Reiko's characterization in the comic seems to be that he will literally sleep with anyone tangentially connected to Shao Kahn. He will do anything and fuck anybody to be throne adjacent. Which is weird because as they're fighting on the beach, Reiko feeds them this story that right before Shao Kahn died, he adopted me and made me heir to the throne. And it's just like, I don't believe that's true, man. I think you're making that up. So yeah, like, but if it were true, then he's boning both of his stepsisters.
Like I said, Outworld, no
I guess,
standards.
but I just maybe have one plan that's really good instead of 3 desperate ploys that are really kind of flimsy.
We should return to where we left off in MKX now.
Right.
Because we
So
got off on
that's
kind of
it for the comic.
tangent.
That's the whole thing for Mileena's part in that. So Mileena in the game, after the flashback of how she got overthrown by Kotal and was thrown in the dungeon, we catch up to her in the present day. She's been freed. She's working with Rain and Tanya, and Rain, by hiring the Black Dragons, has gotten Shinnok's amulet for her to use. And Rain and Mileena have also hired Kano and the Black Dragons to pretend to work for Kotal and then turn on him. And there's this whole scene set up where Kotal is riding in his carriage a royal procession through the streets of the city. And Kano is in the carriage with him negotiating an arms deal. And then the procession is stopped in the street by a bunch of overturned ship crates and stuff. Like a bunch of boxes are just lying in the street, blocking the path. And that's when Kano pulls out a knife and tries to assassinate Kotal, and gets his shit pushed in, basically. Kotal kicks the shit out of him, and then Mileena and Tanya and Rain spring their ambush, and Kotal beats them all up too. Aaron Black almost shoots Rain dead, but he gets away. And then Mileena pulls out the amulet and uses it to, like, she's trying to vaporize Kotal, but Kotal blocks it with his magic somehow, and it takes out.
He manages to push it back, and like the people are like, his own soldiers around the area just kind of get zapped into.
Yeah, they just get fucking turned to dust by the blast wave. And Mileena can't shoot it again because every time she uses it, it burns the shit out of her arm, apparently. Which is the first time we've seen in MK lore someone that, like, a lesser mortal character trying to use the amulet will hurt themselves.
Which I enjoy. It should be a very, very powerful trinket. It should not come.
Yeah, I think that's a smart thing to set up. I'm surprised they never did it before, but at the same time, no one's ever used the amulet in the old timeline except Shinnok and Quan Chi, and I can believe Quan is powerful enough to take it.
Yeah. There's a good line, actually. After Rain teleports in and grabs her, and he gets her out, Devora's like, "What did my emperor see?" And Kotal goes, "A mere cub grown to be a jaguar." And I thought that was a nice line.
It's basically sort of saying that up until now, Kotal has been underestimating Mileena, that he wasn't taking her very seriously.
But she's becoming more of a threat.
So Mileena gets away, like Rain teleports them all away with his puddle teleports. And the Earthrealmers come to help Kotal because they want to get the amulet back because it was stolen from Raiden's temple, and also because after that big fight where Mileena whipped out the amulet, a bunch of Outworlders start migrating to Earthrealm as refugees because I guess they're afraid of getting caught in the crossfire and dying as Kotal and Mileena fight each other. They're afraid it's going to escalate.
Well, it's also said that, like, Outworld's been pretty much torn apart by the Civil War.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'm not surprised there were people seeking a better way of life.
At this point, like, by the present day, Mileena has been rebelling, and her and Kotal have been at civil war for, like, 15 years.
The comic says 10 at that at the point where like Sonya and Kotal are meeting. He says
Yeah,
10 years.
I guess that's fair. If Mileena was in the dungeon for 5 years, that would make sense.
Maybe. I'll have to go back and look up the exact time frame.
Well, there are timeline problems because, like I said, the flashback to when Kotal turned on the game has a subtitle that says 5 years ago, but the subtitle should say 20 years ago because it's happening simultaneous with the Shinnok stuff. Because they specifically mention Shinnok is attacking Earthrealm. Maybe we're next. We should ally with them. That's like the plot of that scene. So the subtitle should have said 20 years ago. So if her and Kotal have been... Well, the other thing is the comic book is like 5 years before the main plot of the game because Takeda hasn't turned 18 yet in the comic. And the scene where Takeda has like his 18th birthday and Scorpion gives him like his final test and then he goes off with Kenshi in the game, that one has a subtitle that says 5 years ago. So if Takeda turned 18 5 years ago and the comic is like just before that, like Takeda's probably like 17 in the comic, then the comic was about 6 years ago from the main game. So if the Civil War has been going on for 10 years according to the comic, then it's been going on for 16 years from the main game.
Hence the refugees.
Which means Mileena was probably in the dungeon for 4 or 5 years before Tanya and Rain broke her out.
Took him long enough.
I guess it's probably not that easy to break someone out of jail, out of like the main dungeon of the castle, you know.
I'm not sure.
I don't think it has the revolving door of, say, an Arkham Asylum, is what I'm saying.
I guess it depends where she's being held, you know? If he's actually taking over Shao Kahn's old fortress,
I would imagine
doesn't really seem
the
like
most
that
important political prisoner in the entire realm is probably being held at the fortress, at, like, the capital in Zunkara. Which is, by the way, that's what the capital city of Outworld is named, and that name is introduced in the MKX comic for the first time.
Also, Zunkara really feels like an Osh-Tech name somehow, you know?
I don't know. I feel like it's alien gibberishy enough that it could belong to any language.
Maybe. Give us Shao Kahn in a future game with a place built in Zunkara, and we'll see. But anyway.
I would like to see like the name pop up again. Like,
too many things.
I would like them to see. I would like to see them flesh out Outworld more in general. Like even that map from the 3D era crypt, the map of Outworld, is not accurate at all. You can't use that map. It doesn't make sense. Like, the Shao Kahn and Centaurs are on 2 different continents when the story was always that they had a border dispute.
Anyway. We're getting off track again.
Yeah. So Mileena has been, I guess, at civil war with Kotal for 15 or 16 years. And their big fight with the amulet happened in the city of Sundo, which is Li Mei's hometown from the 3D era. So Li Mei leads a bunch of her fellow townspeople to escape to Earthrealm. And that's how the Earthrealmers come to find out that Mileena has the amulet.
And smuggling amongst the refugees is Kano.
Yeah, he's using like a hologram disguise to look like an old lady from Outworld, and he killed the real old lady. So they find the old lady's body, and that's how they find out Kano is in the camp. It seems like he probably could have just created a better disguise instead of killing someone, but I guess Kano can't resist being Kano. There's also a weird bit in that scene where they say, where the cause of death of the old lady is one of Kano's famous neckties, which is the first time it's ever been established that he likes to kill people a certain way. Which I guess a necktie is where you slit the throat and then stick the tongue out of the hole, isn't it?
It might be. But I think that's just their way of, like, referencing the classic ear-to-ear line.
I guess.
We've never actually seen him use it as a fatality or anything, but I'm pretty sure within universe, it's one of his favorite ways of killing. I can believe it.
I guess. I'm just saying, like, MKX is the first time they're establishing that he has the famous Kano necktie is like a signature of his.
But it's because that Kano gets, like, caught, found out, beaten to within an inch of his life, he talks.
Yeah.
And he's why they find Mileena's base in the first place.
Yeah, which is the camp in what's called the Kuatan jungle, which, by the way, is the first time we've ever found out that the Kuatan territory has a jungle, because usually it's like volcanoes and caves. Like, Mortal Kombat, the games have never outright confirmed that the Shao Kahn live subterranean like the movie says, but they've never gone against it either. So that's where Mileena is camped out, her and Rain and Tanya. And Kotal sends Devora, and Cassie Cage goes with, because Earthrealm is working with Kotal to get the amulet back. And when they get to the camp, Rain attacks them, and they find out from Rain that the reason he got Mileena the amulet is because he wants her to keep using it and die from it so that he can take over. And like I said, Tanya then immediately jumps into frame from off screen and attacks them after Rain gives this monologue about, like, his true evil plan. So clearly Tanya was close enough to hear the evil plan, and since she doesn't object to it, obviously that means she was in on it, and she was planning to betray Mileena too.
Well, that's what you can assume. The game doesn't say that, but
the game doesn't say that. I'm just saying she was way too close to not have overheard.
It would make sense.
I don't believe for a second that Tanya didn't know.
Could be either way. I don't particularly know or care.
I mean, that's just me weighing in on it.
That's fair.
Like, so Rain is knocked out, and Tanya is knocked out, and then they fight Mileena, and Mileena is knocked out. And Devora was going to kill her, but Cassie stops her for some reason. Like, I guess it's just because it's sort of a generic, the good guys don't kill, and Cassie's a good guy.
That's exactly what it is.
But also, like, I don't know if, like, Batman, Superman morality makes sense for a member of the Army Special Forces. You know?
Maybe it's about the way Daddy Cage raised her.
I guess. Because, yeah, Johnny won't kill anybody. He's the only one in the new timeline who is established as not killing people, because that used to be Liu Kang's thing. But in MK9, Liu Kang didn't give a shit. So Mileena is captured and brought back to Kotal, and he has her executed, and there's the fucking scene where Devora does her own version of the kiss of death.
And this is why Mileena has lips. No other reason.
That's what I'm about to get into.
I know.
So I have always speculated that there are two presumably leading reasons why Mileena was retconned as having lips in MKX. One of them is so they could do this scene, because to animate that kiss would look awkward or not necessarily work right with Mileena's traditional mouth. You could still do it, but Devora would be kissing teeth, you know? It would just be odd. The other reason that I presumed was because they wanted to make Mileena more waifuable. They wanted to make her more conventionally attractive, because she is kind of the that's what her fan base likes her for. She is the hot one, sort of.
Sex appeal.
Yeah, yeah. Now, a few months ago, on another one of our videos, we got a YouTube comment from someone who claimed to be an artist at NRS. And they said that they were like an intern or an underling of the person who designed MKX Mileena. And that person's reason for giving her the lips was essentially the same reason Shao Kahn is all scaly in MK11. That there was no reason, they just felt like taking some creative liberty and doing something different with the character artistically. And he ended up deleting his comments because I argued with him that that's a shitty reason to retcon a character.
I hope you screen capped them.
I didn't know he was going to delete his comments, or I would have screen capped it. Unfortunately, it is now lost to the ether.
That's a shame.
Yeah, but I want to put it out there and emphasize that, like, I'm not sorry I was mean to you, sir. That's a shitty reason to retcon a character's physical appearance.
See,
if you're going to reboot somebody's looks, do it in the game that's already a reboot. Do it in MK9 or don't do it at all. Do it at the start of the new timeline, man. That's when it's okay to change stuff. I'm sick of this thing they do where every single game the characters have different faces, and every single flashback they're wearing a different costume from what they actually wore back then. Stop doing that! The lack of consistency is making your storytelling worse.
One, when I think about costumes,
Yeah,
and general character appearances,
yeah.
I've generally stopped caring. Shao
See,
Kahn,
that's what they want. They want you to give up so that they can do whatever they feel like.
that doesn't mean I accept it. I'm just saying that I don't hold them to any particular high standards anymore because I know that they don't give a shit.
Yeah, that's the point. It's about standards. It's about the fact that Mortal Kombat used to be like the game you could hold up as, look, normally video games have bad stories, but they actually put effort in on this one. Now Mortal Kombat is just another trashy video game. They've completely lost all of that high ground that they used to have as the game with a good story. Now they're just like everybody else.
That stuff's been gone since 2011. Honestly,
At least since
if
2011.
you want to get really technical, it's been that way since Shaolin Monks.
Yeah, it has.
But in terms of Mileena having lips, to get back on the topic,
Yeah.
I don't look at it as a retcon. Like,
You choose to believe that her mouth evolved over time?
no,
Because I have heard people like say that's what they think the explanation could be.
I think that one day she tried out some magic to give herself a facelift. That's it.
I mean, if they literally ever said that, okay.
I just use the Occam's razor approach. What makes sense given her personality? Why would those lips be there? I think it's a choice that she would. I think it's a choice that she would make.
I take it as what it is on the surface. They fucking redesigned the character because they felt like it, and now we're gonna get into like how I feel about the redesign. I don't like it, and I know there are a lot of people who do, who think she looks better with lips. I've also heard people frequently try to say that the lips make more sense because now she can pronounce words. Here's my argument against that.
The argument against that is Baraka.
In the entire Tarkatan race appears in MKX with lipped Mileena, and they don't have lips. That makes the lips thing seem like a gender thing. Like she's the female. We don't care if Baraka has lips or not because he's not hot. I have a problem with that. The other point I want to make, you don't need lips to talk. Parrots don't have lips. Mileena and the Tarkatans could be pronouncing words with some kind of different throat than humans have.
Inner lips. Think about
Inner
it.
lips, sure.
Editor here. I would like to add that anatomically, she shouldn't be able to move those lips. She doesn't have cheeks, and the proper muscles to move lips are not there.
I also hate the lips. But as far as I'll go with it is, an attempt was made, please don't do it again, and I am so grateful that 11 brought back the Mileena face we know and love.
Yes, and that is another point I want to make. There is not one single skin in 11 that gives her the lips, which says to me that your whole thing. Well, maybe she cast a spell on herself to give her lips. Your idea that it could fit into canon. If they wanted it to be part of the canon, then they would have had they would have had some option. They would have had some ability to have either lips or no lips. And they went 100% no lips, which tells me that it was never anything but an art experiment. And they're done experimenting, and they just want regular Mileena back, which I'm thankful for. Because aesthetically, like obviously from a story point of view, I've made it clear why I don't want lips. But I also don't think the lips look good, just as an art opinion. And the reason I don't think the lips look good isn't the lips themselves, it's the teeth. If she's going to be half Edenian, half Tarkatan, and have twisted monster teeth, then those twisted monster teeth should look like Tarkatan teeth. The giant, thick tusks that she has in X neither look Tarkatan, nor do they look like an in-between stage between normal teeth and Tarkatan teeth. They look like their own thing. And if Mileena's teeth were to be their own thing, then they never should have said that the DNA came from Tarkatans. Because I will point out, Mileena in MK2, UMK3, Gold, they never said why her mouth was a monster mouth. They just said she's a clone who came out wrong. They didn't say her DNA came from Tarkatans until Deception. So there was a point in time in history where they could have made her teeth look like anything and it wouldn't have mattered. But from Deception on, it is now set that it's Tarkatan DNA. So the teeth should look Tarkatan.
I just want to point out that you referred to it as my little idea of it being part of the canon and everything. I know it's not actually canon, okay?
Right,
I know it's... I'm conscious of the fact that it's...
I should say that if a person was trying to justify the lips in story, and I have heard people besides you make the same suggestion, what if she used magic to try and make herself prettier off screen between games? Or what if she's as she grows up, her face is changing to be more human? They've made various suggestions to try to justify the mouth as something other than just a retcon.
Justification and explanation are two different things.
Fair enough.
That's all I'm saying. If I'm justifying it, that implies I want it there. I don't. But I just don't give a shit about their artistic decisions enough to argue about it and be angry about it to the level that you are. No offense. Well, it was a mistake. I always thought it was a mistake. And I said to myself, one day we're going to get Tooth Mileena back. And we did.
Well, you know what it is? It's like when people make a bad comic book or video game movie, and they change a lot from the source material, and those changes are the reason it's bad, they always make the excuse of artistic liberties. That I'm the director, and this is my vision, and it's my movie, so I have that freedom to do whatever I want.
Yes, but just because one can does not mean that they should.
my point of view has always been that doing so is insulting the fan base. Like, the people who are coming to see your movie are coming to see it because they already like the source material. So everything you change from the source material is actively an insult to them. It's saying that what you like is bad and my ideas are better. And I feel the exact same way about an artist changing a character in the middle of a timeline like that.
It's situational.
It's just, it feels insulting to me.
I am generally with you, because this entire discussion is pertinent to how I feel about all of the Michael Bay Transformers movies. Those are not the characters I love. Those are people wearing robot insectoid skin that happen to share the same names as the robots I love.
You mean Optimus doesn't collect faces in the source, in the lore?
Smokeman, I'm gonna need that clip from Dark of the Moon right here. Hello, little bird. Give me your face! Give me your face! Christ. But no. I can understand the justification for making adjustments to better tell a story, if it's done with reverence to the material. And my go-to for this is Venom. Because Venom is a character I feel is very capable of holding his own and telling an interesting story completely separate to Spider-Man, I'm generally okay with a meteor from space, rather than having to go through the entire Secret Wars origin and having a movie with Peter in his costume.
I've always been okay with Venom Earth on a meteor, or the animated series origin was that John Jameson was on a space mission and found the goo like on the moon or something like that, and brought it back accidentally, and they sort of used Jameson in a space shuttle as part of like the shuttle gets hit by the meteor or something in the movie version.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem really with Venom having a solo movie that Spider-Man's not in. I would prefer that movie to be a sequel. I think too much of Venom's character, like the white spider logo on his chest and the fact that he can shoot webbing, require him to have been attached to Peter first before Eddie.
You know what the really funny thing about that is that no one ever remembers? That white spider logo? That was Spider-Woman's first.
Yeah, that's no
one ever brings that up.
Well, in the original Secret Wars, the reason for the black suit was that Peter had been fighting alongside Spider-Woman, and obviously, like, his outfit gets ripped, and he goes to what's supposed to be a machine to make a new one, but he picks the wrong machine and sets Venom free instead, and doesn't realize it's not a suit. He wanted a suit that would look like Spider-Woman's because he thought her outfit looked cool. So it was actually deliberate that he was trying to look like Spider-Woman, and that's why he's wearing her white spider logo.
See, that's the thing. You go back far enough and there's a reason for everything, and there's explanation for X as how X leads to Y leads to Z, and sometimes Z is what's the most important thing to convey in an adaptation. So I understand
I don't need Julia Carpenter to show up in a movie to explain why that particular logo. I'm just saying that, like, I do need Venom to have a white logo and to be imitating Spider-Man's powers. Because if he doesn't, then he's just Black Carnage. That's all I'm saying. Like, there's a reason that Venom looks like a big, strong black suit Spider-Man. That's part of the core concept of the character. And I need them to set that up.
I agree to some extent, but to me, he does a lot more like leaping around and like slinging off parts of himself these days, more than he just does straight web swinging. So
see, I kind of had a complaint about that, particularly in the movie, that he does kind of do Cletus's fucking goo scythe move. and like he kind of shoots out like goo daggers in the movie. Like, I don't want to see him doing Carnage's moves, because then when Carnage shows up in the next one, what's the difference other than one is red?
That is a problem that the symbiotes are having a lot of, but we're getting kind of off track. It's
I agree
that
a metaphor for why there's a reason for these things. There's a reason Mileena's mouth looks a certain way. And if you're just going to change it because you want to draw something different, then you're being shallow. You have to think these things out. An artist needs to also think like a writer. It really bothers me how many concept artists there are in the world who don't think like a writer, who don't think out their designs. They just turn off their brains and paint. And I think that's a big problem with the NRS team, but more so like just kind of video game art in general has a lot of this. Movies have a lot of this. I just think that, like, as an artist myself, as someone who has drawn a lot of concept art and design work, I put a lot of fucking brain power into deciding why I want things to look the way they look. And it baffles me when other people don't have the same process, because I don't understand how you get good art if you're not thinking about the reasons why it should look a certain way.
Sadly, for a lot of, the artists that they seem to be using, the answer simply just seems to be because it looks cool.
Yeah,
and
the whole point of concept art, the whole point of character design and costume design is the thinking part. It's the reasons. That's why that field exists, is to come up with ideas that fit the thing and make sense.
A lot of people dislike Sub-Zero's MK11 hat, and I actually enjoy it because it actually seems kind of Chinese in origin.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that. I like it too because it actually kind of ties into, like, Chinese culture. It looks like you've seen that hat on, like, soldiers in like older movies that are set in, like, period pieces, kung fu movies and stuff. I've seen that hat before. It's like a Chinese thing. So yeah, like, they actually thought that one out, and I like it.
I think that their artists need more of a story Bible, because the thing, like you're saying, when 11 Shao Kahn first showed up, and we all thought, well, many of us thought, oh, there's got to be some sort of reason his skin's all scaly, maybe it's related to Onaga or this or that. It's notable that our minds instantly went to Onaga because we believed there was a reason he looked that way.
Yeah.
And Shao Kahn is a guy that poisoned and killed Onaga. He doesn't have anything to do with himself in terms of his genetics. He shouldn't look that way unless he did something to a dragon and drank it or ate it. So well, I do understand where you're coming from.
So Merc, our artist friend who has worked on some of the Patreon casts, his one of his college professors is a guy who does work for NetherRealm as an artist, and because he's in Chicago, and he has said, according to his professor, NetherRealm outsources a lot of art. And, like, you see Mortal Kombat concept art on ArtStation or various places on the internet. A lot of them are posted by a studio called Atom Hawk. And Atom Hawk is a freelance studio that NRS outsources to. These people don't work inside the building. So what that means is they're not having the kind of regular contact with a supervisor from inside NRS that you would hope a concept artist would have. Because art, like writing, if you're doing it for a big project, you would hope that there's, like, an editor or, somebody in charge of the project who's, like, over your shoulder telling you what you should be drawing. And, a lot of, like, here's another story, metaphorical. take Bruce Timm, for example, the guy who creates and produces and writes for all of the like DC animated stuff, Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, that guy. We have seen that his work is better when he's under the constraints of a network censor or standards and practices, when he's sort of left to his own devices and can do anything he wants to do. He tends to make these animated movies that have unnecessary sex and language and scenarios like Bruce Wayne having sex with Barbara Gordon that fans not.
I knew it as soon as you said Bruce Timm. That was coming up in the next 60 seconds. I absolutely knew it.
It is. That's just one example. I could think of more, but it is like a common thing in creative fields that people do their best work under some kind of outside supervision or constraints. You need someone to rein in your craziest ideas, to tell you what you can and can't do in order to come up with the most creative stuff. Because your first idea will often be your least detailed, like the stuff you're just throwing shit at a wall to see what sticks. If someone doesn't step in and filter those ideas, and you just do them as they come, you haven't spent as much time on them, like refining them and polishing them, as you will when you're forced to. When someone is telling you you can do this, but you can't do that, and you're like, well, I really want to do this. So now I have to think about how to do it that will get by that that other person telling me what I can and can't do. I have to refine it and I have to polish it. People do their best work when they have a fucking boss paying attention. And it seems like NRS, their artists are very disconnected from the department heads, and their art team is very disconnected from their writing team. And how things look is a big part of telling a story. Like, it matters a lot. So you need those two departments to be connected, and they're just not. And that's a cause of a lot of problems, I feel.
Excellently put.
So, anyway.
We've established prior that there's a major disconnect between one team working on one thing and another team working on another thing. And this is why in 11, like, Jared's been killed by 25 people.
Yeah. That's a good fucking example. Because, obviously, more than one cook in the kitchen is adding his own who killed Jared ingredient to the fucking stew. And nobody's coming in and stopping them and going, whoa, I already put the Jared in the stew. We don't need two Jared.
What gets me is that if you look at the credits, there's like a plot supervisor in there. Think about that.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be doing much.
Watching NASCAR.
I think a lot of it is in a business setting. There's a certain professionalism, quote unquote, that's like politeness, where you don't want to like be a dick to your coworker, and you're afraid that if you point out this part of the story doesn't work, you'll come off as a dick, maybe?
If that's the case, I wouldn't last 5 seconds in NRS because I'd be like, yo, this shit don't make sense.
Yeah.
Fired.
I could never work there. This is why every time in the YouTube comments we get people being like, yo, NRS should hire Razor. Razor has, he knows what's up and he can fix their shit. I can't do it, man. I could never work for NetherRealm. They don't want a guy like me who will tell it to them straight. And we found that out when Brian Chard left the company after MKX. He said that he didn't like the corporate atmosphere, which was a lot of yes men and ass kissing.
So our point is that corporate environments and mainstream exposure have ruined Mortal Kombat. And Mortal Kombat was a mainstream force in the 90s.
Yeah,
Think about
and
how bad that is
I don't think it's ever I don't think there's a way to fix it now. I think being part of Warner Brothers is just There's no cure for the cancer, man. It's
Okay,
it's not like they can ever become an independent studio again. Or at least if there is a way, it's very, very unlikely. And even if they did somehow like cut off like who was it who left Activision? Was that Bungie or somebody?
I forget.
Well, somebody managed to leave Activision. I don't know that NRS can leave Warner Brothers, and I don't know that if they did, they'd be able to take the IP with them.
Probably not.
So I think this is just the way it is from now on. I don't think it can ever get better, unfortunately.
I have to take us back down to earth and get back to Mileena and 10, because...
Yeah. So, well, I mean, part of the reason I feel so free to go on such a deep tangent is because we've kind of come to the end of Mileena in 10. That death scene, D'Vorah executes her, and that's it for her in the game.
But we haven't talked about her outfits.
That's true.
We've talked about her lips, and that got us going for about 20 minutes.
I would say I don't mind her primary, but it's like not one of my favorite outfits. Like there are some good ideas in there. I like that her pants look like some scrounged together and stitched up leather that she like, because if she's been living, you know, out in the wasteland in charge of this like rebellion, kind of like having to scrounge together supplies, and she doesn't have the nicest stuff anymore. So I do kind of like that her outfit looks piecemeal. I also like that she has like Khan's logo as a belt buckle.
I wanted to bring that up. Her overall theme seems to kind of scream daughter of Shao Kahn. Like,
Yeah.
and this is a situation where I actually enjoy the shoulder pads.
Yeah.
She feels like a little Khan Jr. in a lot of ways.
That's the other thing I want to say. Her primary is it's not overindulgent on the tiny like HD graphics details, like how I often complain that X and 11 and Injustice costumes are. It's actually pretty simple, and that simplicity works to its benefit. It's very clean design.
It is one of my favorite Mileena costumes. Her main, in X, that is. I actually find it kind of a refreshing change of pace that she's wearing pants. It's unusual, but it seems battle-ready, so I enjoy it for that.
For a Mileena who's a little more survivalist, who's, you know, in an underdog position fighting the Civil War, trying to get the throne back, it does make sense for her to dress a little more practically and have pants on. My personal preference, like my favorite Mileena costumes are like Deception and Gold and 9. I do like her more in the skimpy outfits. I think those fit her personality more. They're a little more glam. MKX Mileena is not in a position where she can be as glam. So the outfit does fit her story. So I don't have a problem with it. It's just I don't think it's her best looking personally. That's my opinion.
My personal favorite one is the Shaolin Monks look. It just seems right.
Monks look a little too naked, actually.
Too naked?
Well, she's wearing almost literally nothing. Like she has nothing on but a tiny bra and a sash over her junk.
Let me go back. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong one.
It is her most naked outfit. I'm sure of that. Cause like the loincloth is see-through. You can see like her little thong underneath it. And she doesn't have boots on. Her feet are wrapped in like black gauze.
In game, they look more like boots. I don't know if she's actually got a render.
I don't believe she has a render, no.
I don't know. It's not the fact that she's naked that I appreciate, or near naked. I just think the color scheme generally kind of works better. It's a variation on her deception look. Like, she's still got the veil.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that her teeth are kind of visible underneath it.
Like...
There's more
well,
pink
the
than there is
veil
black.
was supposed to be partly see-through, but it would vary from, like, render to render.
There's more, like, pink than there is black. I like the single straps for her size on the thighs.
Yeah.
The arm guards. I think the overall color scheme is complementary, a bit more than the deception costume is.
I think the reason I don't like her Shaolin Monks outfit so much is for the same reason that I don't like, say, MK9 Katana or Scorpion. It's one of those characters where you're in a remake, but your outfit looks nothing like it did in the thing you're remaking. It's not bad or ugly, it's just too different from MK2. I would have preferred something that was a little more of a swimsuit and not a bikini.
Potato.
I mean, a one piece and not a bikini. They're both swimsuits.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, if it was a one piece, but it had like a big hole in the chest or the stomach, like her UMK3 outfit or her 9 one, I'd be fine with that. I just think one piece instead of bikini basically sums it up.
Fair enough. I don't know.
And if it were for a new game, like if she was wearing the Shaolin Monks outfit in something that wasn't a remake of 2 or 3, I'd be perfectly fine with it.
Well, Shaolin Monks itself fails at a lot of things about being a remake of MK2.
Yeah, but
it's its own experience. But
like of the remakes of MK2, like between it and 9, artistically Shaolin Monks is like 90% the best thing. Like
all I'm saying. But yes, I think it's pretty cool.
I just think like I said, 90% Shaolin Monks fucking nails it, and then like Mileena's in the 10% too different. It's not bad, it's just too different. I would have preferred a remake of a 2 outfit. That's all.
I think another reason I enjoy the Shaolin Monks outfit, as opposed to like the 9 outfit, which again I don't mind, but the 9 outfit seems kind of more blatantly fan servicey. Like there are straps over like half the boobs, rather than like, how can I put this?
Well,
they're both revealing outfits, but 9's feels a bit more like lingerie. And we've established that like Mileena and like skimpy outfits are just things that go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But as far as skimpy outfits go, I think the Shaolin Monks one is the best for it. It's one of my favorites. I don't know if it is my favorite, but it's definitely up there. I don't know. Anyway, so that's her costumes and general appearance. That's all of her in X done. So then now we move on to 11.
Yeah,
our brand new Mileena.
Well, first of all, I do want to bring up her arcade ending in X because
didn't we? We didn't.
It's one of those endings where it's not canon, but actually the idea could have potential if it had been.
Yes, the clones.
Yes, the idea that after Mileena's death, she could have come back in the form of an army of Mileenas that Shang Tsung would have had in the flesh pits.
This is an idea that actually seems to gain traction a little bit. I see people discussing this every so often.
Yeah, I kind of like it because I think it's interesting that the clones would all share a hive mind. I think that idea has potential. I think you could do something with that. The idea, like, look, she's already a clone, which establishes that you can make more. So why wouldn't Shang have a secret army of clones? It seems like if you have the power to do that, it's a smart thing to do.
He tried once, made meat, gave up on it, decided he had better things to do.
Yeah. Also, I've always said that since to me Shang is her real father because he's the one who created her, I just wish there was more connection and interaction between Mileena and Shang.
It is nice that she acknowledges that she knows he's the one who made her in 11.
Yeah, but she also kind of brushes him off as like, yeah, you created me, but
You're not
you
my
did it for
dad.
Khan, and Khan's the one who adopted me and considers me his heir.
He's an uncle.
Yeah, I don't know. I just would like to see Shang, if Shang had come back and he had an army of Mileenas. I think that would have been like a cool new addition to his power base, something to make him dangerous again. Not that 11 did a bad job at all of making Shang dangerous again. Obviously, Aftermath makes him the real villain of the whole game, and he completely punks out Chronica, which is great.
Yes, it is.
I'm just saying that would have been a nice extra too. And it would have given Mileena a place in story mode, which, getting into Mileena in MK11, she's DLC, yes, and most of the DLC has a canon role thanks to Aftermath. But Mileena, Rain, and well, obviously not Rambo, but Mileena and Rain
God.
are not part of the story. They are DLC, but they're non-canon.
To date, I still
date.
think that there's room to have a side story, or
The possibility still exists that they could put out more story DLC.
they've said that they're not going to.
I don't think they will.
It might be unlikely, but the game sold like gangbusters, so
Yeah. It's also worth noting. Okay, so the characters who were going to be in Aftermath have arcade bios and endings that telegraph their role in Aftermath. Like Sindel, we got her before we knew there was going to be a story DLC. And her bio, which, by the way, MK11 doesn't technically have bios. They are not in the game. But it has bios on the website. It has these like 1 or 2 sentence little blurb things.
So yes, this Mileena is brought back by Chronica from some point in time as well, because they don't like
most of the characters, their tiny little website bios telegraphed what they would be doing in Aftermath and how they would fit into the story. Mileena's bio on the website just says, when Chronica brought everybody from MK2 to the present, she brought Mileena too. You just didn't see her. The problem is that doesn't just not work as a thing that could have happened off screen. It actively contradicts lines of dialogue in story mode. Like, in MK11, characters frequently talk about the fact that Mileena is dead and not around.
See, all that means is that they don't know she has been brought back. In the constraints of what we know up to date.
If Chronica brought her back to give her a secret mission that she didn't tell Shao Kahn or anybody else about, what mission was it and where the fuck is she? Because she clearly didn't help Chronica win anything.
No. I mean, at this point, all you can do is speculate.
I'm just saying, it seems like there's not a place for her to fit. Or if she did fit somehow, she would have been filler that changed nothing and affected nothing, and that's not better.
Side stories, prequels, whatever. There's still room. I've always maintained this game is not done until Reptile's on the roster. We still, after all this time, don't know exactly what happened to Reptile and Ermac, for example.
Sure, but what I think is, even if there were to be more story DLC, I believe that they would have decided upon it and created it after they wrote that little Mileena bio. I think that Mileena bio was written by someone who didn't expect there to be more story DLC, even if there is.
It could wind up being utter bullshit. We'll see.
Yeah, because it's such a meaningless filler bio. It does nothing except signal to me that Mileena probably isn't canon in 11.
Remember when in Ultimate MK3 she was around and her ending was like, oh, she actually just, never. What the hell was it? She was actually like, her UMK3 ending was essentially the same as her MK2 ending. It's like Baraka's tournament or something.
Yeah, it was something about her once again teaming up with Baraka. Like, they took Sindel and Kitana hostage in order to force Shao Kahn to give them another tournament that they could win and take the throne in.
Yeah, something like that. But by the time Trilogy came out, we know that, like...
You can tell when something is filler. Like, the finished version of the MK3 story still has classic Sub-Zero in a completely non-canon filler bio and ending. You can tell when they're filler.
I'm just, I'm saying, her motivations and shit for Trilogy were rewritten. Things changed. There's still room.
Sure.
Whether or not it happens is something else entirely. And yeah, that may be a filler non-canon bio for now, but whatever.
Right, but for now, we can skip. There is no Mileena in story mode to talk about.
It's a bit of a blessing, really. Sometimes.
I don't think it would have gone well for her.
No. But we'll see. But as far as she actually goes in 11, there is a lot to love. Recently, we've been very, very, very blessed with good stuff.
Yeah, I am a fan of how they did Mileena in 11, like, graphically and gameplay-wise, not just because they brought the proper mouth back. That's just the first step of it. One thing
a major part
really
of it
love...
is the fact that she actually looks like Kitana again. She's voiced by the same voice actor.
Well, she's always been voiced by the same voice actor. They've done a decent job there. And I will say, I do kind of think the 9 and X voice actress, Karen Strassman?
I think that's it.
Yeah. I do think she did a worse Kitana than the one in 11, but a better Mileena. I think the voice actress for Kitana and Mileena in 11 does Mileena a little too cartoonishly growly.
Your head will decorate my throne.
Your head will adorn my throne.
Don't be mad.
Don't be mad.
Was it good for you?
Was it good for you?
There's a lot of rasp going on.
Yeah. I don't hate it. I'm not saying she's like, oh, she's as bad as Ronda Rousey and fucking Dimitri Vegas or anything like that. Not by a long shot. I can definitely put up with this Mileena voice.
I need time to get used to it is what I need. Because when I close my eyes, if I want to hear Mileena, I'm still hearing lines from like 9 or X.
Yeah.
That voice became very memorable.
Like, I do think, like, obviously, whoever voices Kitana always should voice Mileena.
Agreed.
So, it's nice that they do that, and it's especially nice that this time they made sure that they share a face.
She actually looks like a clone of her. She has in some time.
I want to mention that I really, really appreciate that they did with Mileena in 11 is that, the glowing special effect, her special moves. In 9 and X, they did them purple. In 11, they're blue again, like they were in the old games, and it looks a lot better in blue. I find that when a character has a particular signature color, like Jade wears green, Mileena wears purple, when they then give their special moves that color too, it's too monochromatic. I don't like it. I like it when Jade's moves are purple and when Mileena's moves are blue. Not everything has to match your fucking costume.
You know what it is? There's something that is just very aesthetically pleasing about a flash of, like, really light blue coming from a swung sword or a razor implement. It looks good. It complements the weapon.
It looks like it goes with the weapon. Like, it's not always a magic trail of energy. Sometimes it just looks like the way a gleam of light shining off metal should look.
Exactly.
Blue on metal does work in that respect. And I do think the Mortal Kombat games, since about the 3D era, have overused particle effects and glows on characters where they don't need to be. For example, when Sindel is flying, she doesn't need purple dust coming off of her, okay? She can just... You don't need a special effect on that. She can just fly. Just have her body in the air. That's all you need. You don't need magic around her.
But if you absorb the purple dust, you too can be bitch pudding. Boy.
Not everything needs to glow. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes things look better when they don't glow.
We're gonna get into this about the proper use of glow when we get to talking about Jade, because I got opinions, man.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some problems there. But that's for a future episode. I just wanted to say that I think Mileena's moves look better in blue.
They look
And
wonderful.
I'm really glad that they're blue again. I think her effects look very pretty in MK11. I enjoy her aesthetically.
I feel like they put a lot of heart and effort. Maybe it helps when they're not constrained by production timelines. Maybe when they do DLC, they have a bit more freedom. Maybe. I don't know. It's possible.
It's possible. I mean, if I were working on DLC, I would certainly want people to buy it, so I'd want to make it look as good as it can.
Let's talk about her outfits.
Okay.
We've established before that the girls' MK2 retros look a lot better here than they did in X.
That's true.
And by the way, I forgot to mention, I'm not a huge fan of the X alternate. We didn't actually talk
Yeah,
about it.
the MKX alternate I find is just too busy. It has these weird like webbing stockings and like a weird armor on her arms. I think so. There is a thing it has in common with her 11 primary, where the main body of the outfit is like a little kimono that's sort of like short, like a skirt at the like below the waist. I think that's cute, and I think that them, focusing on that for the 11 primary and just making a good version of that worked out for the best, because it did not work in X with all the extra fucking detail and stuff on her arms and legs.
There's like a little gold medallion off on the shoulder, and it looks very cobbled together.
Again, every time we talk about costumes, I complain about X and 11 and Injustice, the high def, over detailed, too many greebles and bits. I'm tired of that stuff, man. I just want something simple, something clean. And I think 11 did a good job with that in her primary, where her X alternate, which is sort of the same outfit but different, failed.
I enjoyed her other X outfit and her vampire outfit a lot. Not to the extent that I like the main, but the other one is where she has the ponytail up on the back, and she's got a bit more of a veil going on, or it's like a wrapping.
Yeah,
it's still busy.
Isn't that outfit just it's just her alt with a color scheme invert and then some stuff on her head. Like she has like a little crown tiara thing.
Yes. And there's a bit of a dragon motif, it looks like, going on around the end of the skirt. If that's the same thing that she's got going on in the main alternate, I really even can't see it, because the main alternate looks lived in but dirty and just, like you said, too busy. This one I like a lot more because it's a bit better defined. The mesh around her arms looks good. It's a bit too red, but I generally enjoy it.
Yeah,
and the vampire one,
I still think
the vampire one I just enjoy for shits and giggles.
I still think it's too busy. But the color scheme where it's black with pink trim instead of purple with black trim does look better.
Yeah.
The one thing I will point out, the tiara in this version of the outfit, there is, well, it's a tiara, and then it's also her deception veil.
Yep.
The thing about that is, if you look in the concept art, originally the reason she has the deception veil is because she was going to have a version of her deception outfit.
What
and they made this instead.
What could have been?
Yeah, that's a bummer.
I think that's actually why I wound up gravitating toward the vampire outfit when I was maining her in that game. Because she was my main in X. Because I had no one else till Tribor came along, and that just made me sad quickly.
Yeah, I never used the vampire outfit because I don't know, the red didn't really work for me.
It was one of the few times where I just went full in with like a completely different alt look, like one of the wacky Halloween ones.
Yeah.
I don't often do that, but I found it worked well enough. And
yeah,
I've got a goth
don't
thing going on.
usually go for the Halloween skins in general.
But that one did look good. But anyway, back to 11.
But yeah, you were saying that the retro looks better in 11 than it does in X. And that's because
we have established that so many times, but it can't
the MKX one looks kind of like it's like made of rubber and it's wrinkly in weird places, and the 11 one looks more like sort of satin, like the actual costumes did in MK2.
And the detail that I really enjoy about the mask is how it doesn't quite cover up the upper corners of her mouth.
That's true. You can see the slightest hint of her teeth.
It's cool. I enjoy it.
I do like that.
She actually doesn't have a costume in 11 I dislike completely. But we gotta talk about the shaved head.
Yeah, I'm not the hugest fan of the Tarkatan tribal outfit. I don't hate it as much. Like there are people out there who, like, anytime they see that hairstyle on anything just lose their shit. And I think it's because a lot of people in the real world who have that hairstyle tend to be like standoffishly, like aggressively unpleasant in their expressions of feminism, let's put it that way.
That's an assumption, but okay.
Well, they are aggressively political, and that can be unpleasant to interact with in social situations.
Maybe I'm just completely out of touch, but I never specifically codified that hairstyle with anything apart from a fashion statement.
I have seen corollaries between that fashion statement and certain political beliefs. And well, I'm not making a statement one way or the other on how I feel about that. I'm just saying it's something I have seen and that the people exist who hate it.
Be that as it may, I just don't think it looks good on Mileena. It looks good on Cassie Cage when she said it.
So I understand why they did it, because again, this is the skin where this skin represents if she were hanging out with a Tarkatan tribe. And the Tarkatans as a race are generally bald or mohawked. Like, there's not much hair on the Tarkatan people. So if she was trying to look more Tarkatan, I understand why she would shave some of her hair off.
So what you're telling me is that this is a Tarkatan outfit, and that when she said that she was never going to mate with Baraka in her dialogue, she's lying.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
And obviously, we have seen that of the races of Outworld, the Tarkatans are always the first, if not the only ones to accept her when she's on her own. Like, that's even outside of her relationship with Baraka. Obviously, because she's part Tarkatan genetically, they do consider her one of them, and they support her when she's the queen, or, they are her main soldiers during the Civil War. They're the ones who stuck by her and didn't join up with Kotal. And, I mean, I wouldn't either if I found out that he wanted to genocide my fucking people.
You know what? Thinking about it, that might be a place I'd like to see her go if it turns out to be a side story. Maybe she just gets tired of the whole thing and says, fuck it. She finds out about her history, what's going to happen if she takes the throne, and she just goes, maybe I'm better off out in the wilds. That'd be interesting.
I would like to see her like living among the Tarkatan people a little more closely. Yeah.
Realizes she feels most at home there or something.
Right. She has two other skins besides her primary and the Tarkatan one.
I did want to mention one more thing. The Aaron Black wanted poster. The shaved head's the one that appears on that. I think they were really close to making this her main until they decided better of it. I don't know.
Interesting. The wanted posters do sometimes have alternate skins on them. I wonder how they decide which skin to put on the poster.
Just a little something I wanted to bring up.
Indeed. The so one of her other skins is one that's heavily based on like trying to look like Kitana. She's got Kitana's headband and her hair in a bun, just like Kitana's primary outfits.
Again,
And she's got more of a like a classy silver kind of samurai armor on her and like pants that sort of look like Kitana's primary pants.
Again, I like it.
I like it. I think it's an interest. Like if you were to remake Deception and you were pulling the Mileena's trying to disguise herself as Kitana story, this is probably what she should be wearing in that scenario.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell it's not Kitana when you look at this. Yes, it's purple, but it still manages to look like not Mileena, weirdly enough. Like, it actually pulls it off.
There's a teal variant of it that you could swear up and down was Kitana if she wasn't holding size.
Indeed.
It's good.
Yeah, I think this works for her. I think, like, looking back, it is a shame that we can't get a remake of Deception and see something like this in it.
Could have been.
And then her fourth outfit is basically her Kanem outfit, where she's trying to dress like Shao Kahn. She has a skull helmet.
And I'm actually a big fan of this one. I enjoy it a lot.
I like this one a lot. This one might be like her primary is my favorite, but this is second place easily. I like her in a Kahn helmet, and I think the her variant of the samurai armor, where it's like covering her chest, and then she's got like a bit of a kimono over top of it, like covering one shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I think that looks very attractive. I think it works for her.
My variant that uses this outfit is unmasked. I love how it looks. The teeth immediately below the skull. This feels like a Mileena when I wear that outfit with no mask on.
Yeah,
it feels like a Mileena that's like accepted her place, has no problems about herself, is ready to take on the duties of Shao Kahn. It's
when we were talking about how I don't really like either of her alternates in MKX, one of the reasons I don't like them is it bummed me out that she didn't have a costume like this. Like, since X, I've been feeling like if she's going to be Kanem, she should have a fucking skull hat.
She should look the part.
How much she idolizes her father and wants to be just like Shao Kahn, she should absolutely be dressing like him when she takes the throne. There's no reason not to give her a skull helmet with the samurai accoutrements and at least one, if not two, spiked shoulder pads.
But we haven't actually complimented the main yet, have we?
That's true. I did say like I liked it better than her MKX alt, where she had a similar kimono look.
It feels like a good update to the classic look.
Yes, this feels like I said, with Shaolin Monks, if you're going to remake MK2 or 3, I feel like your outfit should look like something similar to MK2 or 3. I mean, obviously this game is not that, but like, if she was taken from the past by Chronica, and this is supposed to be her remake of the Outworld tournament outfit.
Yeah, I'm okay with
this.
That.
Works for that. This looks like a very, very detailed version of what she would have been wearing during MK2.
The material looks right. There's a good mix of like battle ready, but also sexy for Mileena as is the norm. And
She's
I'm a
got
big fan of the
appropriate
bob cut.
length of gloves and thigh-high boots with like black trim, kind of like a garter belt kind of thing. I think looks nice. It kind of creates an Ultimate MK3-ish aesthetic.
I really like the hair. A lot.
The hair does kind of look like she cut it herself and she's not very good at it, but in a way that I think works for her.
It's the length overall. I like my Mileena most when she's got the long hair, obviously, but I wasn't prepared for this to look as good as it did.
Yeah, she's got what I would call sloppy bangs, which I think I'm not complaining about. I think it fits. So yeah, I think, like I said, her primary is my favorite for her in this game, and it's probably the costume I have liked the most on her since Deception. Like I like it more than the MK9 primary, although I know the MK9 primary is probably the most popular Mileena outfit of all time.
I like it, but there are things I like more.
Sure.
She's got decent gear, too. I'm very grateful for the unmasked option, like I said.
Indeed.
And she's got the Oni masks, which are nice.
Yeah, she's got some like porcelain face masks with lips on them, which I like because
Yes.
I know there was an artist, I think Zamoel drew her with a porcelain doll mask years and years ago. But even before he did it, I had been saying on MKO that I think it would be like a good look for her if she was wearing like a doll mask, like covering her teeth with an imitation of a pretty face.
It is something that I could see, yes.
I think that's a good look for her. I'm pretty sure I used that mask with her her katana-like outfit with the bun and the headband.
That's a good combination.
Yeah.
Then she's got the claws. Now
She does have one of her gear gimmicks in this game is claws on her, like metal claw jewelry on her fingernails.
because of the way that the fatal blows work, you know.
Indeed.
It's the same as like Shiva with the damn shield. It's unfortunate, but
She has been like scratching with her nails and biting people a lot more in her moveset ever since 9. So it certainly fits.
yeah, it works. It stands out. Like it's not as obtrusive as Shiva having like the shield and like the spiked gauntlets that don't match any of the other gauntlets around her. So I don't mind it as much, and it helps that there's an option to have like literally nothing but the claws on her fingertips.
Yeah, there's one for like the retro where it doesn't include like a big wristband or anything that gets in the way of the classic glove.
It's a very welcome addition, and I'm grateful for it.
There's one particular glove that I think is really cool.
Ah, yeah. I know what you're about to say.
It's one where most gear will change the color scheme to match whatever shader you pick. Like they're all sort of synced up so that if you pick a different color, the gear changes colors too. There's one that she has that will not change colors. It's always the color of like red meat. It looks like soul edge is growing over her arm. Like it's like gore and like bone.
I've got to actually try that one with the Condom outfit. It could be a good combination.
I like it with the Tarkatan one for some reason. You could go either way there.
I want to say she's got interesting size, but
Well,
I can kind of take her.
Did we already talk last episode about how much it bugs me that Mileena
Katana's got all the good ones?
Yeah, Katana has all the good retro size from like Deception and MKX.
And
it's Mileena doesn't have them. Like Mileena has retro MK2 size to go with the retro skin.
Those are now my default for everything.
But Katana has the Deception and MKX ones, and Mileena don't.
She's got a couple I'd say are pretty okay. Like the main with the little gap in the center.
they're all right.
Not terrible. There's one that looks like the hilts are devil horns a little bit. They're kind of ornately curved.
I mean, they certainly, with that many slots, you can get creative, and there's a lot of different things they tried that look decent.
There's little skulls on these ones, I think.
Personally, I just kind of equipped her retro size to every skin. I don't need her size to be, like, super fancy and have, like...
They're on most of mine, too.
Yeah.
Now, that pretty much brings us to the end, but I do want to talk about fatalities a little bit. And while we're on the topic of fatalities and talking about MK11's take on Mileena, holy shit, dude, I love her brutalities so much. Like, all of them.
Yeah, she's got some good shit.
She's got some amazing... There's stuff I didn't think I didn't ever expect to see them reference.
Well, one of my favorite things about 11 that we don't really get the chance to bring up much is that they use the brutalities as an opportunity to bring back, like, silly MK3 fatals, like Giant Jacks and the arcade drop.
I try to avoid that, but...
Mileena has the nail spit.
Yeah. I should have seen that coming, but I was still surprised when it did. It's so... You know, I've never been a fan of it. It's just always been so... utterly Looney Tunes. I'm amazed it keeps coming back.
It is legitimately something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon.
It still brought a smile to my face when I saw it for the first time. It's like seeing an old friend who also happens to work as a clown. But what I was really impressed by was the fact that she's got a combo string.
I don't really, like... Normally, I'm kind of annoyed when, like, they do stuff like give Lou the arcade drop as a fatality, because you only get 2 of those a game. But we get so many brutalities that you can do absolutely any dumb thing you want with the brutality, and I'll be like, I get it, that's pretty funny. You know?
Yes.
Like, I don't have any reservations. You can go completely nuts, because there's going to be 15 brutals. You have room to spare.
I don't dislike the fact that the corny or silly ones are there. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah.
I just, I appreciate the effort that goes into making these callbacks. And the one I was really surprised about was the fucking UMK3 combo string one. Because I never expected to see that ever again. Now, for going back...
that they would, like, remember a specific dial-a combo from an older game. And, like, turn it into a special move.
Now, there's a bit of, like, precedent for this in MK11's history. Like, when they were first showing off Jade, they made it a point in the combat cast to show us that it was technically possible to do her full MK3 UI fuck you string. It can be done. But Mileena's got exactly the UMK3 combo string, which is memorable because for some fucking reason, for me, in UMK3, the last hit was activated by doing a down-forward low-kick special in the middle of the combo. It's the only way it would come out. It was fucking dumb. But that thing's a brutality, and she causes your head to pop off with the last kick. I can't believe they brought it back. I can't believe it. And I was like, I had giggles when I kept doing it over and over again.
That is a nice touch.
And then there's the fact that she fucking eats you again. Like, literally chomps your head off in one huge comically large bite. And then just throws up. I didn't know how much I'd missed Mileena throwing up until she was throwing up in front of me again. That's her. That's my beautiful princess. I've missed her so much.
I almost wish, you know how MK4, I always say I like those fatalities because they would take a retro and they just embellish the animation? I've always kind of wished that there would be a version of Mileena's MK2 Eat You and Spit Out the Bones finisher where she'd, like, stop in between, like she was choking on a bone in her throat before she can spit them out.
So just kind of halfway, gets up to the waist.
Yeah,
and
she
like,
just,
wait.
Like she eats you, and then she starts like hacking up like an animal hacking up a hairball, like it's like clearly caught in her throat, and then she like punches herself in the chest and then spits up the bones.
Oh, there's so much fun to be had with the concept.
That would amuse me. I've always kind of wished she got something like that.
I guess it's time to bring up what our favorite fatalities are. Call it a night.
Well, so I find a lot of the modern era fatalities, the ones that aren't a remake of a retro, forgettable, because they tend to be just like, oh, I cut off this arm, and then I cut off that arm, and then I cut off your head, or, you know, it's always like 3 stages of weird torture.
Right, I hate that shit.
Yeah. I will say, I think Mileena's best fatality of all time is in MKX.
We have the same thought. We are unanimous.
It's the one where she pushes you over and starts eating your guts out.
Yes.
Just like...
It's
just
the
total
right
George
kind.
Romero of the dead. Blah, blah, blah,
It's the right kind of utterly messed up. It's disturbing and effective. It's the same as when I saw Noob Saibot's Wishbone for the first time,
Indeed.
Just taking chunks out of you one at a time and chomping it.
And it's like she doesn't stop. It's like the Quan Chi leg rip where it keeps going all the way to the fade to black.
Yep.
I love that shit.
I love that we're in agreement here. Instant classic.
Indeed. Indeed.
I hope there's more,
Yeah.
Like, we know that they're doing motion capture right now for further things in 11. There's going to be more characters, and I really do want to see a story for her.
Well, you know what I would hope is that I mean, obviously, as you said, we know they are not done with DLC. Ed has said like there's more coming. We don't know what, assumably just characters, but MKX all the way until they stopped supporting it. With like every patch, they would add new brutalities and new intro dialogues. And I would like to see them start adding some brutals and intros to 11.
That would be nice.
Certainly, like, there's no reason not to. Like, to just, like, you have to imagine, like, intro dialogues, as long as you have access to the voice actors, and maybe that is a problem because of, like,
I think it really has been for a lot of things, like, getting a hold of Ronda Rousey again, especially after the reception she got, and...
Yeah.
We've seen that there's been a lot of copy-paste where certain things are involved.
Like, hopefully there will come a point where the game is still being supported after the pandemic is over and there's a decent vaccine out there and things start getting back to normal. They'll be able to get a hold of the voice actors and add more intros, because as long as you can get them, that's a very, very easy thing to implement, a very, like, low-resource thing to develop. Because it's literally just recording more files and putting them in the audio folder.
Well, nothing's ever easy when it comes to implementing things and patching things. There's, you introduce one thing, you fix one bug, and 10 more pop up. That's a set.
Right, I mean, you do have to code that when character A says this line, character B has to respond with that one. So,
like,
there is a little coding, but...
The best example of what I'm talking about is, like, how, they fixed Classic Jade's staff snouts purple. Now her other Halloween outfit fucking staffs are all fucked up. Now they're green, and people aren't happy about that, and...
Were
just
those
saying,
always green, or were they were a different shade of green originally? That's what changed. Yeah, no, the witch broom staff was always green. It was just
it was purple.
Green.
It was purple, dude.
I don't remember it ever being purple.
Hang on a second. I gotta look this up right now.
Because I got that skin when it came out. I got the Halloween pack because I download everything the day it comes out. I don't remember the witch staff ever being purple.
I am 100% positive. Anyway.
So, where were we?
We were done, pretty much. I think that's it. We are unanimous about what our favorite Fatal is. We've talked about everything, and we're just hoping for good things for the future.
Yeah, more DLC and stuff. Right. I remember what I was going to say. Outros are not, like, like, yes, you do have to do some programming, but outros are not so complicated to add to the game that it's like, the only way we're doing this is as a $20 pack, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, they were able to keep doing them for X all the way until they stopped supporting the game. So that's something I'd like to see more of.
Agreed.
But as far as Mileena goes, I think we've covered it.
I just want to see more out of 11 in general, because, Sindel problems aside, I actually like the gameplay, unlike a lot of people out there who apparently, on a competitive level, like Temp, dislike it completely. I enjoy how it plays.
I do have problems with, like, the...
I don't like the time travel aspect of things, but that's...
the rolling out of a juggle thing. I forget what it's called. But
oh, yes, the recovery.
You know what? I would say the latest update to Street Fighter V proves that it's never too late to add a radically gameplay-altering new mechanic.
You're talking about 11?
I'm talking about it would be nice if 11 had something to make it a little more interesting, a little more exciting, a little less slow-paced and methodical of a game.
I don't know how you can make it... I don't know.
I don't know what you do either. I mean,
because I prefer I prefer this pace to, like, the cracked out UMK3 approach that was 10. I really enjoy the way 11 feels as opposed to 10.
Well, I'm not saying I want you to put the run button back in.
No, God, never again, please.
I feel like MK11 is a bit restrictive in the combos you can construct compared to 9 and X.
That's fair.
And I think that's always been, like, Maximilian's complaint with it. Like, he talks a lot about it whenever he does anything regarding Mortal Kombat on his channel. I tend to agree with that assessment, that I wish there was a little more freedom and fluidity with, like, the normals.
I feel like 11's restrictiveness is probably the biggest part of its gameplay flaws. Like, there's always been a sense that they've intentionally toned down what is possible, not just in terms of constructing combos, but in what special moves can do, like how it takes meter to actually get a lot of moves to work the way they always have worked traditionally. I feel like there could be some flexibility in those aspects.
Yeah, and I know, like, obviously, take the fucking roll out and put some other kind of defense mechanic in. And, like, my instinct is always to advocate for combo breakers because I fucking love Killer Instinct. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. Like, if you look at what they just added to Street Fighter V, it's sort of like a dodge parry mechanic that you can use your fucking V-trigger on.
Okay.
They could do something like that, where you, like, spend defense bar to do some kind of, like, counterattack, which is sort of what a combo breaker is, but there are creative ways to implement it.
Sounds an awful lot like the Deception Breaker system.
Because, like, obviously that's what they were trying to do with the fucking roll out of a juggle move. They were trying to have a Injustice-esque answer to the combo breaker that's not a combo breaker. And at this point, I'm just like, it didn't work, man. Just have combo breakers.
All right, I think that should be it for the night. We've hit our end. Now we're just spitballing about gameplay.
Yeah. There have been tangents. Mileena was well done. I am pleased with MK11 Mileena.
For the most part, I think our girl's gotten fair shakes in all 3 games. She's been more fortunate than some. Had her highs, had her lows. Accomplished some shit. Got wrecked. I know a lot of people out there were not pleased that Devora ate her face, or her bugs ate her face.
Yeah, I mean,
But I just gotta say, fans, this is...
Face it, Devora is a Mary Sue, and something does need to be done about the fact that they keep letting her kill off classic characters.
I hope we're done with that. I didn't mind it much when it was Mileena, but when it was Scorpion, I got a little bit pissed off.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people who would probably say that they would be satisfied to have Devora in a thing if she gets killed off. I would be more satisfied to just not have Devora in things. I think that's the smarter answer.
I would not mind at all if that was our side story. What happens to the bug lady? Mileena sets her on fire.
You don't see Devora again in story mode after she kills Scorpion.
No, you don't. And I'd like to know what happened.
Do like a side story that's just Mileena hunting and killing Devora.
She hired a man named No Face, and he was everything she hoped for. Flamethrowers. Alright.
That could totally be... Yeah, that would work. Like, if there was to be more story for 11 that was trying to fit Mileena into it, I'm fine with her just hunting and killing Devora.
I've always said, there are places you can go. Just make it a parallel side story. Here's hoping.
But yeah, my biggest hope for the future, for Mileena, isn't necessarily about the games themselves. It's for her fan base. My hope is that the Twitter stans learn to like the normal teeth, and that the lips just go away forever. That's my biggest hope.
If they show up again as a side costume, it's whatever.
Yeah, like, if it's just an equipable option and it doesn't appear in story modes, it's not canon, I'm fine with it. Like, the same way I would be fine if Smoke was Cyber Smoke and everything, but he had a Human Smoke costume. Totally cool with that.
The same way I'd be okay if Smoke was human and everything and had a cyber costume.
Well,
just like that.
That episode is coming.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go into that sober. I really am.
But yeah, I really want, like, as far as canon and story goes, I don't want to see the lips again.
My hope for Mileena stands for the future is, I'm sorry your girl's head got eaten. I'm sorry she died. Welcome to having your favorite characters suffer. This has been my life for 30 years.
Well, as we've gone over before, like, obviously, if you started with 9 or X, seeing your favorite character die, especially if it's Mileena, is probably new to you.
Welcome to the Mortal Kombats!
Mileena has died several times.
You gonna die.
Not new.
She gonna die again. He gonna die. She's gonna die. They're all gonna die.
It's inevitable that every character is going to die and come back. Just... You'll get there. You'll get used to it. We did. It's a life experience thing. You learn these things as you get older.
That's it for us for tonight. Have yourselves a good night. Thank you for tuning in.
Yep.